Good evening, residents of Litchfield. As the chair of the Litchfield School Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are utilizing Google Meet for this electronic meeting. All members of the Litchfield School Board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through this platform, and the public has access contemporaneously to listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following number: 1-866-899-4679, password 964-963-469. Once again, 1-866-899-4679 with a password of 964-963-469. Or click in the following website, Litchfield Community TV. We previously gave notice to the public of necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of Litchfield School Board at School Board Agendas. If anyone has a problem, please email Christina Harrison at charrison@litchfieldsd.org or Michelle Flynn at meflynn@litchfieldschooldistrict.org. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes will be taken. This meeting will be done by roll call vote. I'd like to start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. With each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Tina Harrison?
I'm here. No one's in the room with me.
Tara?
Here by myself.
Liz?
Here by myself.
Rob?
Here alone.
And I'm here at Town Hall with Dr. Jetty, Jason, our IT, and Rob Fay is doing cable TV. So I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any revisions to the agenda this evening?
We do not.
All right. So, summary of non-public actions from June 3rd, 2020. The draft minutes require approval from the school board. Mr. Myers made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of May 20th, 2020. Mrs. McDonald second. Motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mrs. Harrison made a motion to accept the nomination of Rebecca Smith as a grade 3 teacher at GMS for a salary of $46,369 for the 2020-2021 year. Mrs. McDonald second. Motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Mrs. McDonald made a motion to accept the nomination of Jonathan Bennett as CHS special education teacher for the salary of $51,594 for the 2020-2021 year. Mr. Myers second. Motion carried by roll call vote. Mr. Burke, yes. Mrs. Harrison, yes. Mr. Myers, yes. Mrs. McDonald, yes. Mrs. Hirschberger, yes. Now brings us to retirement, acknowledgement, and recognition.
So I just want to address the public and also our staff who are joining us tonight. So typically we've been having our retirement tea to honor and recognize the retirees from the Litchfield School District. And if we add this up, we've got many, many years of service to our youth in town that we want to make sure that we recognize. And obviously with the COVID pandemic this year, it wasn't the time to gather and drink tea and eat crumpets. So we had to not have that event. And I also think that some of the retirees were hoping that with the close of school late last week and into the, we're sort of winding down. A few people are still doing some work, that they might have thought their last meet was going to be held, but no, we've got them here tonight. in a school board meets in order to recognize their careers in Litchfield. So what I've done is I've asked the presidents, listen to me, the principals, to say a few words tonight for the staff that are in their building. And I'm going to actually start with Bill to speak to the high school. We'll then go to Tom and to Scott, and then I'll wrap it up at the very end. So, Bill, do you want to lead the way here?
Absolutely. So, Dennis Perot became an educator after realizing he had not found the same passion and excitement working as a lawyer as he found teaching. So Dennis left the bar and became a CHS founding faculty member. Dennis's primary role has been as a social studies teacher. He loves challenging students, raising the bar for them, and he would motivate them, make them laugh, and yes, love his classes. His passion for excellence was well known, and if you earned an A with Dennis, that was an accomplishment. He created multiple courses at CHS, including one on President Lincoln and one on the U.S. Constitution, both areas of great passion with him. Every school year, Dennis would pass out a copy of the U.S. Constitution to his freshmen, and he always kept a copy in his back pocket, always. Dennis created our Campbell Recycling Advisory Program. That program has been recognized as the Recycling Program of the Year by the New Hampshire Recycling Association. He was also New Hampshire Social Studies Teacher of the Year in 2016. He's been on statewide committees for his expertise on legal and ethical matters. Dennis also coached the girls soccer team at Campbell, and he was the guru on Redica, our former SIS program. Dennis served on many school and district committees, and he was always a committed member of the LEA. But more so than anything else, he went to scores of athletic events. Dennis always established great relationships with his students and their families. But it was his love for his students that really mattered. If we ever have a Campbell High School Hall of Fame, Dennis Perot's name will be enshrined in there, I can guarantee that. One final thing. When I was considered a candidate for CHS principal, I took a ride out to CHS one day on my motorcycle, and Dennis was out front. We spoke briefly, we'd never met. He then gave me a lengthy tour of the school, and at the end asked if I was a candidate. I said, yeah, for sure. And he kind of laughed and said, I guess I gave you a little bit of an advantage over the others. Today, I think I owe some of my fortune to becoming principal to Dennis as a result of that tour. Anyway, on behalf of the colleagues he worked with, the families he worked with, and most importantly, the students he loved, I want to thank Dennis for his years of service, both inside and outside of the Campbell High School walls.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill. So that brings us over to Tom, who's going to talk about middle school retirees this year.
Okay, great. Thank you all. And I'd like to just up front congratulate Mary Cummings, Kim Nolan, Jill DeLaurier. All three are here. And so what I'm going to do, I'll start with Miss Cummings. And congratulations, Mary. I have a couple of my own notes. And then I also wanted to read an excerpt from our yearbook, which was dedicated to these three retirees, sort of through the lens of the students and the yearbook committee. I thought that would be a special addition to this today. So Ms. Cummings, a counselor at LMS, has been supporting students for 22 years. The job as a middle school counselor is everything you can imagine and more. Ms. Cummings has a calm, reassuring, and positive approach with her students. She has been a reliable support for thousands over the years. Often a thankless job, there are so many stories of students perhaps encountering some of their greatest challenges of their young lives alongside Ms. Cummings and her wise words or listening ear. She has been right there at just the right time for many of our students. Thank you, Ms. Cummings, for being that rock, for being that support, for understanding our students and their needs. And then I want to read, again, out of our yearbook, the dedication this year. Mary Cummings started her guidance career at Litchfield Middle School in 1998. She is compassionate, dedicated, and always willing to help out students and staff any way possible. Her kind heart helps students through difficult life experiences. Her dedications to Red Ribbon Week has been a big part of LMS and recognizing smart life choices. She enjoys meeting individually with students or in small groups with her lunch bunch. In addition, she has provided excellent life lessons in the classroom. Mary has a ready smile for everyone she meets and easily provides a listening ear to all. We wish Miss Cummings all the best in her next phase of life, retirement. Enjoy, Miss Cummings. We will miss you.
Aw, thank you. Thank you.
Okay,
Very nice.
So congratulations, Mary.
Thank you, Tom.
I'm going to move over to Miss Delorier here. Congratulations, Jill. Ms. Delorier, our speech pathologist for 32 years, has provided support for her students. She is much more than a speech pathologist. Guided by a witty sense of humor, an acute understanding of students, and a heart to help and serve our community, Ms. D has been a tremendous asset to our LMS team. Not only does she provide expertise and support to her students in the area of speech and language, she has become the cheerleader for all things green at LMS as our Green Raiders advisor. Thanks to Mrs. D, LMS has a fully operational recycling program, including a recycling shed. Ms. D has been caring, compassionate, and extremely dedicated to our students. Thank you for teaching our students not only academically, but even more importantly, how to be good citizens. And I'd like to read again the excerpt from our yearbook. Ms. Delorier started her career as the brand new speech therapist in Litchfield in 1985 at Griffin Memorial School. At that time, she was known as Miss Levy. In 1997, she made her move to Litchfield Middle School. She is conscientious and dedicated with a quiet demeanor. Most everyone knows her as a fierce proponent of going green as the advisor of the Green Raiders Club for many years. She is often seen caring for and folding the many student items on the lost and found tables at the front of the school, and her dedication to her caseload of students has always been a priority. She will be greatly missed here at LMS. We want to wish her the best on her future endeavors. Congratulations, Ms. D.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and last up, we have Ms. Nolan. Since 1994 at LMS, Ms. Nolan has been bringing incredible passion for teaching to school with her every day. Her intelligence, eloquence, and steadfast desire for excellence has guided her to become a leader within the walls of our school for many years. Ms. Nolan is an incredibly talented writer. Over her career, she has taught countless students how to write and how to appreciate literature. To be a middle school educator, you have to have a high level of judgment, common sense, and the ability to relate to students of this age. Thank you for Kim for making our school a terrific place for students to learn and for making an incredible mark on thousands of students who cross through your classroom and on us, your colleagues, who will miss you dearly. And I also wanted to mention the many committees that Ms. Nolan served on, an active member of the LEA. She has been just an incredible advocate for all things students at all times. So always appreciated that, Ms. Nolan. Thank you. And I'd like to read the excerpt from the yearbook committee. Ms. Nolan started her career at Litchfield Middle School in 1994, teaching 5th grade. In 2003, she made the jump to become an 8th grade language arts teacher. 10 years later, she moved on to become the 7th grade language arts teacher at LMS. She is a master at the art of teaching students writing. She is relentless with getting her students to become accomplished thinkers and writers. Kim works tirelessly with her students and seems to have that never give up spirit with them. She laughs easily and makes all those who meet her feel comfortable and welcome. Her classroom is an extension of her warm and welcoming teaching personality. She has given so much of herself to LMS. We will miss her greatly. Kim, we wish you the best of luck as you move forward to your next adventure, retirement, and spending time, treasure time with your grandchildren. Congratulations, Ms. Nolan.
I just want to thank everyone. It's been 26 wonderful years, and I will miss everyone. Thank you very, very much. And good luck to the other retirees also. Enjoy.
Excellent. Sorry, I muted. Thank you, Tom. So we'll come over to GMS, and Scott has 2 retirees that he would like to recognize.
Thank you so much. Our 2 retirees are Jocelyn Robinson and Paula Cullen Kent. Jocelyn Robinson is retiring from her position as school counselor at GMS. She has served in that position since 2013, but has been in the teaching profession for 27 years. She has also held the roles of assistant principal and special ed coordinator in other districts. She approaches her job with the broadest vision of the role of a school counselor, focusing on community building and social emotional learning in all its forms. She provides individual and small group counseling services and intervenes when students are anxious, upset, or otherwise experiencing life events that impact their school performance. She provides whole class lessons to all students to teach social skills and self-management, and offers lunch bunch groups to give students a chance to practice and develop those skills in a safe environment with trusted peers. She also runs the student council and organizes alternating biennial school-wide events, a career fair, and the PSU Tiger program. She has worked directly with other staff members to support field day and relay recess. She is the go-to person at GMS for all families in need and helps connect them to resources within the school and the greater community. She also serves as building liaison for homeless families and is the coordinator of services for students with disabilities documented in 504 plans. Mrs. Robinson brings her own moral imperative to everything she does to transform her deep sense of caring and compassion into meaningful action. Thank you, Jocelyn Robinson, and best wishes in your retirement.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you to Litchfield School Board, and thank Paula and Scott and all the other retirees.
And Paula Cullen Kent. This is the end of Paula Cullen Kent's 37th year, not only in the district, but as a 4th grade teacher, an extraordinary accomplishment. Her first job, right out of college, was teaching children of the Rosebud Sioux tribe on their reservation in Mission, South Dakota. There she learned to ride a horse and drive a truck, and strengthened what I believe to be her driving moral imperative to make a difference in the lives of children. Paula has been a 4th grade teacher at GMS for 37 years and a team leader for much of that time. She has an extraordinary ability to work successfully with any student and to help every student find within themselves their own strengths and capabilities. Paula has always been creative, innovative, and forward-thinking, and envisions her students always as active learners. She started a Young Inventors program years ago to celebrate Litchfield's agricultural roots. She created the Scarecrow Jamboree in her first year at GMS and was advisor for that activity for 30 consecutive years before passing the baton. She was one of 3 coaches for an Odyssey of the Mind team that advanced to the World Finals at the University of Maryland in 1985. She has been an early adopter of any new technology that comes our way. She volunteered to pilot the Smart Board when it was first offered and attended a summertime Train the Trainer program session at Worcester Polytechnic Institute for Project Lead the Way in order to advance science teaching and learning at GMS. Paula has lived a life of total commitment to her students, her team, her school, and the teaching profession. Thank you, Paula, for 37 years of outstanding service to GMS. We wish you only the best in this new chapter in your life.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and sad to go, but I'm sure there'll be other adventures around the corner. And I have to say, when I first started in Litchfield in 1983, it was only one building, which was GMS, and it was a readiness through 8th grade. So I've really seen the town change and grow over these years, and I've changed and grown with it. So thank you very much, and I'll miss you. Thank you.
Perfect. And then I just want to take an opportunity to acknowledge Scott Thompson, who is the principal of Griffin Memorial School. And Scott is also retiring this year. I've added it up, Scott. I think it's 33 years in education. He started off attending Acadia University as a music ed major and then getting a master's degree from the Manhattan School of Music, where he then took that music training and went off to work in school. He started actually at Sacred Heart in Hampton and also at St. Thomas Aquinas in Dover as a music teacher, which he did for a number of years before accepting a position as the choral director in Guilford. And he was in Guilford also serving as the fine arts chair for the department there, and put in 8 years with Guilford School District before taking the leap to the dark side, if you would, and joining the ranks of the assistant principals and administrators. And he joined the Newmarket School District for 13 years and then became principal of Griffin Memorial back in 2012. A couple of comments on Scott. I've only known him a short period. Although we talked and we think we may have crossed paths in a CAGS course or a PhD course at UNH. We're not sure, but we certainly were there at the same time, so we probably mingled and didn't know it. But at any rate, I have just found Scott to be the consummate professional. I can rely on him to be a steady voice and to be very straightforward with me as superintendent, helping me to understand what is going on at Griffin and to help me understand faculty needs and school needs there. I will tell you that Scott has not dialed it in for 1 minute. He has been fully engaged. He has been actively involved. And if ever there was an opportunity for somebody who had put their letter in and then all of a sudden this remote learning thing occurred, Scott pivoted with the best of them. I don't know, you must have bionic knees, Scott, because you literally twisted and turned right with every twist and turn that was thrown our way. And you kept things going. And I just want you to know how much I admire that. Because you have been dedicated and involved and supportive of your teachers every step of the way in what, just for all of our retirees, it's overused at this point, but an unprecedented year. I mean, none of us were trained to do what we've been asked to do. And yet, as a community of professionals, we pulled together and we figured out how to do this. And so to Scott, I just want to thank you and acknowledge you at the same time that I'm thanking and acknowledging all of our retirees for what has happened over the last 3 months. And so, Scott, we wish you all the best on whatever the next adventure is, and know that if that's enjoying retirement with your family, then that's the next adventure that we wish you all the best for. So thank you, Scott, for your service to the Litchfield School District.
Thank you very, very much. I just would like to say that the pivot has been, I wouldn't say easy, but I have been in awe watching the staff at Griffin Memorial and by extension and through stories, the staff at the other schools, the district, in one day becoming what we did for remote learning. It was quite awesome. And so I appreciate the acknowledgement, but I have to push it back to the staff at GMS who just did a sea change all at once, as the district did. So thank you. I've loved my time in Litchfield. I will miss you all, and thank you very much.
I would like to just thank everyone for the years of service. Unfortunately, as Dr. Jetty said, we were not able to get together in person. So I would like to invite all of you to next year's tea party, which hopefully we'll have. Let's keep our fingers crossed. And we'd love to see all of you there so we can thank you in person and chat a little bit more instead of like in this environment. So again, thank you all for all your years of service.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So to the retiring teachers, you can all leave now. I'm sure you have a lot more things you'd rather do. Bye now.
So long.
So long. So that brings us to superintendent comments.
So
I'm sorry, nope, I missed
correspondence?
correspondence. I went down too far. So, Tina,
For correspondence, I have an email from Joe Osmore of 34 Page Road. This one isn't very long, so I'm going to read it into the minute. It says, Dear school board members, you may or may not know that all the various garden beds at GMS, including the butterfly garden, garden across from the butterfly garden bed along the wall with the tiger, the tree rings, flowers around the flagpole, and the garden beds around the old GMS entrance have all been cared for by my husband, children, and myself for the last 5 years. Our work has included spring and fall cleanups, trimming shrubs, and weeding all of these areas. From spring until late fall, this was often done bi-weekly. Many of the plants that were planted require that they be covered, trimmed to the ground in the fall, so fall cleanup was often done over several weeks. There were a few times that I had spoken with the school board regarding the grounds team taking on some of these tasks, but even after I was told that they would, they never did any of the maintenance other than mulching, and even that was not done every year. In fact, one year they even left a pile of mulch next to the butterfly garden with the expectation that I was going to do the mulching. There seemed to be an expectation that we would just do it, and the fact that we were volunteering an enormous amount of time was not always appreciated. In fact, when it came time for the new kindergarten to open and the governor was coming for the groundbreaking, I was contacted and asked when I would be cleaning up the garden beds. I was also told from an administrator that they told the grounds team not to worry about cleaning the garden beds for the ceremony because you would do it. I'm writing to let you know that now that my last child has left GMS, I will no longer be taking care of the GMS gardens. I've been unable after repeated attempts to find anyone willing to take on this task, and honestly, I'm not sure that it's appropriate for this amount of work to continue to be done by volunteers. While I enjoyed volunteering to take care of the gardens, somehow over the years my volunteering became more of an expectation, and I'm hesitant to pass on this expectation to a new volunteer. In my opinion, maintaining the garden beds at GMS is part of the landscaping that should be done by the school. I'm writing you to make you aware that this work will no longer be done by volunteers so that you have the opportunity to discuss this with your landscaping crew and make alternative arrangements. Bill Osborne, 34 Page Road.
I have a comment on that. Mike, Dr. Jetty.
Brian?
Oh, can you?
go ahead.
Brian, when we did that back when I planted the butterfly garden, that was our own, we were told that was the only thing we were in charge of was the butterfly garden. And then I don't know how she ended, when I passed the torch to her, how she ended up having to take care of all the rest. I would organize something at the beginning of the year that we would spread the bark mulch. Remember we had a day like that and I would do all that, but they would all be there with us, the grounds people. We were only told that we were in charge of the butterfly garden only. I don't know why I don't know.
I don't know why either. I even go back a few years before that, as far as with the PTO, that I know at that time we were talking about a whole garden club and like planting and all that, and they were going to take care of it. So I don't know if it just snowballed and she ended up with it. So I really don't know. So I think
I'll be completely honest with you. That's completely news to me. If that's something that was going on, I had no, Liz, don't give me that look. I had no idea of volunteers taking care of the GMS grounds. So yes, that is the expectation of my grounds crew, and that'll be communicated to them. That's their.
She said she spoke to an administrator. Maybe she spoke to Scott.
Maybe.
And all I'm going to say out there, if anyone's listening also, if someone, such as yourself, Liz, you did it in a little bit, and then Jill took over. if someone has a passion for it and would like to volunteer, if they see that the groundspeople can't do the job correctly, then, they're more than welcome to. But the expectation is not that we're looking for someone to volunteer and then even that, put an extra work on top of it.
The Girl Scouts used to do the front of the old GMS. And I even started taking, I can't see the butterfly garden anymore, so I don't know what it looks like. I did thin it out and put some flowers at Campbell, spread the wealth.
There's some rabbits living in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think that should be the district's responsibility. Our buildings and grounds should be taking care of all flower beds and plant beds. They make our schools look beautiful, and I think that's important. So I agree with Jill that this should be a district responsibility.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Dave and see what he's got, but that's definitely something that Mark and Reed can handle.
Tina, can you forward the, was that an email or a letter?
It was an email.
Can you forward that to me and Corey, please? I want to, I want to send a thank you acknowledgement because I guess I had no idea that we had a volunteer doing this level of work. So I want to acknowledge that officially on behalf of the board, and we'll definitely do a follow-up on it.
5 years. I passed the torch to her, and it sounds like nobody's picking up the torch. So I thank her. I sent her an email back. Thanking her.
Yeah, I can see how something like that would grow, and the volunteers kind of whittle away, so it ends up being one person. But I'll forward that email to you all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other correspondence, Tina?
No, that was it that was the only thing addressed to the board.
Thank you.
Yep.
So that brings the superintendent comments.
So a couple of quick pieces of feedback. The parking refunds at the high school. So Bill and I and Corey talked with Elena about how we were going to pull off the parking refunds. So we have a process that's in place. And it's a little bit tricky because of the nature of when a parent and a student signed up for the refund. It's easy if somebody got a parking space at the start of the year and 2/3 of the way in, that parking space was no longer able to be used, so we can do some quick math and get a refund calculated for it. It's trickier when students are turning of age or applying for the permit during the year, but we have a process, and so I think we're in good shape. I will tell you that Elena obviously was very focused on graduation, and so we need to make sure that we got through that, but we will be taking care of the refunds and then the credits for student into next year. So thank you to the board for taking that action, and we've met and have a plan in place. GMS enrollment, if you click the link, you will see that we continue to monitor the GMS enrollment pretty carefully. We actually, between June 3rd and June 15th, so roughly that 2-week window of time, we lost 2 students at GMS. 1 student was in kindergarten and 1 student was in 2nd grade. So I know the numbers we're watching carefully are kindergarten, but we're watching them to go up, and they actually went down by 1. And then the 1st grade number stayed level because that's one that we're paying close attention to also. So I just wanted to share that with the board, and I think you have that report in your packet. And the last thing is graduation report, and you have a copy of the graduation report. I just want to point out, Michelle and I were talking a little bit about historically, the numbers are down a little bit. So the number of students attending 2- and 4-year schools seems to be a little bit lower. But I think we, again, have to put the COVID overlay on top of this. With many colleges not having a return to campus next year, I'm sure that's had an impact on some of our student decision-making. Why spend tens of thousands of dollars to have a stay-at-home remote experience, right? So I think that this has been a factor for us. The other thing that I was surprised at was that we had talked about the 2 military students and wanting to make sure that we had a live graduation that they could participate in. And by the time we had that event last Friday, we actually had 7 students who have exercised military choice. So, again, what's driving that, I'm not sure. But there's nothing in the numbers that I found alarming. Basically there were 99 Campbell High School students who graduated this year. And we had 4 Londonderry Knight students who we honored and recognized at the graduation ceremony. That's a first, but Londonderry canceled their event. And so the right thing to do for students of Litchfield earning a diploma is have them be recognized in front of the community. So we did it. And we also had 1 homeschool student. So 104 students were graduated the other night. And I just want to speak about the graduation ceremony. What a beautiful night. I would leave somebody out if I tried to thank everybody, but I mean, it was a community effort. I was a warm demander of Bill and Mike and the graduation committee of trying to get this thing pulled off. And so I just nudged, and boy, did they rise to the challenge in the nudging. The community television and our IT people who came together to make sure that everybody in town was able to see the event live. And actually, if you watch the Facebook Live event with the speeches, that was fabulous. Rob Fay's a really good host for events like that. And so that was a great event. Police and fire came together to make sure that it was a great night for everyone. And our parents and community just supported us. And so, wow, what a night. The graduates were fabulous. I mean, the brutal reality is that when you get everybody together, if students decide that they're going to have a group hug, they're going to have a group hug. And there's nothing that, 4 of us on the stage are going to do about that. But they didn't. They recognized and they took the responsibility and they were respectful of the rules. They did what we expect a Cougar to do. And so 550 plus people on that field, and it was orderly. And it was just an appropriate recognition of their accomplishments. So a huge shout out to the community for what we did. And, and we did it. We did it with students walking across the stage. The speeches were, not live, but they were there. I mean, all the elements of a graduation came together. So kudos to everybody involved in that. So that's my report. And I just wanted to make sure I shared that with both the board and the community.
So that brings us to school board comments. Do you want to speak on this? And that's the community.
Yeah, so I think it's important that we disclose to the community that so everybody in the community, I think, saw the message of unity that we sent out. I felt it was important that the board and the school administrators come together in light of everything that was happening across the country. And as we saw more schools, more organizations put out a message of support, given what has occurred and members of our community who are feeling pain over events that are occurring nationally. So we put out the message of unity, but that wasn't done in a vacuum. There was a lot of conversation and dialogue that went into that. And so, it's important the public understand that the board was signed, I signed it on behalf of the board, on behalf of the administrative team. But that's because we did engage in dialogue and conversation. And we also had discussion because there was some pushback from the community about some of the resources that we shared. Going into it, our feeling was that we don't want to be the keeper of resources. We don't want to be the compiler of resources. So we found resource lists that already existed by organizations that have a vested interest in compiling those lists. And we said, let's just point people toward those resource lists. And it's not our job to edit those resource lists or determine is something appropriate or is something offensive. We were just trying to say, here are resources. If you want to learn more about this topic, here are resources that are there. And so we made that available. And the board did engage in further dialogue just about what is our role, what should we be doing? And our feeling, I think, on behalf of the board was that sharing resources is something that we feel obligated to do as an educational organization, that here are ways that you can learn more. And if you find a resource on there that worries you, don't read it. You can skip that one. But we thought more was better. And so that's why we pointed people toward the resources that we did. So I don't know if anybody in the board wants to jump in or comment, because I don't want anyone to think that we're meeting secretly. We're not, but we were engaged in the message that went out to the entire community and the resources that were provided.
I'd just like to ask Mike, because I still have a concern that, as you mentioned, national news, we had a former student post something locally that I still feel we didn't really address. Has the high school reached out to the student that posted on WhatsApp about his experience?
Yeah, so the graduate of Campbell High School who posted the experience on WhatsApp is actually in regular contact with Vice Principal Perez. And so Mike knows the student and is in contact with him. And he has reached out to him specifically. And I've asked Mr. Perez to have a meeting with Principal Lonergan and myself this week so that we can sort of debrief. We want to get through graduation, but we want to learn. I mean, when we put in there, one of our action plans was to engage in dialogue with our students. We meant our former students also. And if there are experiences that they've had as Litchfield community members that we can help facilitate with other organizations in town, then we have, I think, an interest in doing that because we are the youth service provider, so we're the link. But, you know, if there are experiences that are happening in our schools, we also have an obligation to engage in that, learn from that, and put in place measures that ensure that everybody feels accepted when they come into our buildings. And so I can tell you that's something that we're unwavering about. And if we haven't done that in the past, we certainly are going to work to do that in the future. You know, will we always get that right? Maybe not. There will be things. People will say things, but we can continue one by one to address those and to improve and to grow as an organization. And so we are committed to doing that. So we'll be having that conversation this week and this summer and our planning staff professional development for next year.
Anyone else for school board comments? I have one. I actually had it on my list, and then before this evening's meeting, I heard from the selectman chair, Stephen Weber, and I let him know that it was already on my list to discuss. And that is as far as our playgrounds and reopening the playground. There are quite a few communities surrounding us that are doing so. The governor's already pulled back on the 10-person group. And I think it's time right now that we open the playground. And what other towns are doing, some of them are posting signs saying that the playground equipment is sanitized on a daily basis. Other towns are just posting, play at your own risk. They're not being sanitized. So my feeling is,
I think that's awesome.
I think especially now we need to get kids outdoors. We need to get kids moving, playing. And I think as far as children, they're pretty safe. It's the parents that are more susceptible to this. So I just want to put it out there, and I don't know how everyone else feels as far as reopening the playgrounds.
I like to play at your own risk. It's your parent. Leave it in the parent's hand. You put your kid on, you can wipe their hands afterwards. I don't think, I hear, does somebody have a TV on in the background? I hear something, a radio? Is it weird? Sorry. I think it's good that we open these things up. We need to get kids outside.
So I think the playgrounds and the fields, just open them up and the groups are bigger than 10.
Groups bigger than 10 at this point?
According to the governor, there's no limit.
Okay. Fair enough.
We can.
Oh, you don't even have to say bigger than 10. You can just say they're reopened, right?
Yeah.
Well, right now it's posted, no large groups more than 10, I believe is what GMS has on their sign.
I think if we just take down the tape and take down the sign, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's fine, but I do think, I do like the idea of having signage on the property that it is in at-risk situation. People need to be responsible for taking care of their kids and taking care of them.
That's fine.
They did send, I think it was the town sent over, or Steve sent over examples of signs that different towns are using. So take a look through those and I'll follow up with Dave and see what we can get on hand.
Nice. Do we need to vote on that, Brian?
We voted on something, change it, we did.
Michelle, did we have a motion to close the playgrounds? I think we did.
Yeah.
So we probably ought to have a motion to reopen.
I'll make a motion to reopen our playgrounds and the fields for community use.
And I'll second, but I just caution that we wait until we do have signage up. So if it takes a few days to get the signage up, you know, once that's in place.
Tina, make the motion for next Monday.
Yeah, I'm going to suggest.
Okay, we'll reopen our playground effective Monday, June 22nd, 2020.
Isn't it more than our playgrounds though? What about like the track? What
So I
about
said the playgrounds and the fields.
people?
People are
Or just say open school grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we close school grounds.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? So are we all in agreement to decide to just state, play at your own risk and not being sanitized?
Yes.
I mean, to me, the towns that are sanitizing doesn't make any sense. What, they spray like 8 o'clock in the morning and then kids play for like the next 8 hours.
Yeah, no. And I think it's,
Unrealistic.
it is realistic to keep up with that. Has the town reopened, Dara?
That's gonna be up to the town, but that's one of the reasons Steve was asking, what's the school gonna do? And I told him I was gonna push to open. And
Was
they're-
it ever closed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
the playground equipment was broke off.
I think it's time we open them up and let the kids get out there and play.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. 500. Thank you. What's that? Rob's saying he just lost his excuse of not walking on the track.
You're welcome, Rob.
Never close the track.
All right. So our student reps are not with us this evening. So that'll bring us to community forum.
Let me check my inbox. Oh, I have a nice email from Mary Cummings. Hello, Dr. Jetty, Mary Whitman, Michelle Flynn, school board members, and Tom Lechleiter. Thank you for the brief yet very nice tribute to the retirees tonight. As I was one of the first ones, I kept my comments brief, maybe too brief, but I was nervous. I want to thank all of you for all that you were doing for Litchfield. I've enjoyed my years here. It has been a wonderful experience, and I will miss it. Thank you for the lovely parting gifts which arrived yesterday and delivered by Mr. Lechleiter and Mrs. Thayer. I wish you all well and best of luck moving forward. Sincerely, Mary Cummings, Litchfield, New Hampshire.
You're more than welcome, Mary, and thank you for your service. Anything else, Tina?
Nope, that's it for email.
All right. So I'll bring us to minutes from June 3rd, 2020. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, Liz made a motion. I'm sorry, was it Tina the
Tina.
second?
Yep.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Liz,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. So 500. That brings us to budget transfers.
Yeah, so a listing of budget transfers going back to prior to the shutdown. Most of the things after March 16th, it's just moving things to the areas of need, supplies within the food service, equipment needs for IT, those types of things. Just moving the pieces as we need them, as we had to address things as we went along.
Corey, what are interactive panels?
It's like smart
Is
board.
that for curriculum? Oh, okay.
They're like smart boards, but they're more. They look more TV-like than anything, but they have touch screens and very, very good technology.
The technology's gotten to the point, it's really like a gigantic tablet. And it's better than a interactive whiteboard because you actually have the tablet device, so. And
okay.
it's less money. Yeah, so it's actually, again, that's where the technology goes, right? So it's less money than a smart board.
Why do we have something called whiteboards?
Where are they?
On the
Yeah.
second page. We have a whiteboard, 894.
We transferred, it says whiteboard for $893.
Yeah.
Did we replace a whiteboard, Corey? Do you remember?
Or did you move one?
Where's he looking? I'm looking for the one you're looking for.
The second page is
Page two.
it's about 10 or 15 up from the bottom, actually.
$893.
On 429, because they're sorted by date. 429.
It looks like that money was moved out of an equipment account into a supply account up at CHS. Was Jason doing something with? I could follow up with him. Is he still with you?
He's shaking his head. It wasn't him.
Wasn't him? It's under general instruction, so I'll have to go look at which subject it is.
Was that a math classroom?
What's subject 11, Bill? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't. No.
I know 12 is music. That doesn't help me.
Then it probably is because usually they're alphabetical. So it's probably math. And we put a whiteboard in Babak's room
There you go.
and switched out an older, smaller unit into that classroom. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Okay,
So Corey, can you just double check and confirm that? And just send us an email.
I will.
So I have a question on, it starts on the first page, and it's towards the bottom for a carpet machine for $1,834.
Yep.
And then later on down in the second page, there's another $895 for a carpet machine. So then my next question to go along with this, we'll get into it as far as expenditures. We're spending ahead. There's an expense in there for about $2,900 for a carpet machine. I'm just wondering.
I think this may have just maintenance and rebuilding on it. I'll look into it with Dave. As the equipment gets older, it gets more and more expensive to fix.
No, I understand. But we're looking to buy one for $2,900. We repaired one for $1,800, and then another $900.
Where's the buy, Brian? That's in
Yeah, spend ahead.
in the spend ahead proposal.
In there.
So there's 1834. That's down at LMS.
And then if you go a little further down.
Where's the 895?
That's on 421.
That's at LMS as well. Let me look at that. Let me follow up with Dave on that. Those are his accounts.
So if you could just send for the full board that also, Corey, just give us what that is.
Yep, absolutely.
Is there a motion to approve the budget transfers?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget transfers.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
So Tyra made the motion, Rob second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Tina?
Aye.
Tyra?
Aye.
Liz? Liz?
You're muted.
You're muted, Liz. Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. And then Corey will send us an email as far as the explanation of those other two items.
Yes, sir.
All right. That brings us to curriculum. And Mary.
All right, good evening. I
evening.
wanted to take a couple minutes and talk a little bit about some of the PD opportunities. My curriculum report, because of the state that we are in right now, really focused around PD opportunities and support during remote learning. So I wanted to highlight a couple things and give you guys some numbers. We had 2 sessions that really focused around remote learning follow-up during our 3-day PD, the 10th, 11th, and 12th. And we provided staff an opportunity to participate in a remote learning make and take where they shared ideas that work in their classrooms during remote learning, and we're able to get some time to incorporate them into things that they heard from other staff into their own lessons. And the other was a discussion that Jason led and Scott supported with on remotes over now what? What kinds of things did we learn that we can take with us as we shift into either a hybrid or back into a brick and mortar setting? So just to give you some numbers, we had 55 staff members participate in those sessions. I believe we ran 2 of each. So we had 55 staff members, I think 9. So everything that I'm really talking about were our time specific sessions that we ran over the last few days. Looking to general PD, during the course of our remote setting, we did run some virtual PD. I tried to do a weekly session on some tech tip. We did one on Google Meet, on HyperDocs, on WeVideo, just to try and highlight some tools that teachers were using that other people may want a little bit more information on. In terms of our sessions that we ran as a district that were either tech or curriculum based, we had 40 teachers more or less take training in Canny. We had over 30 teachers participate in training on Discovery Ed. In terms of curriculum work, we had 11 teachers do a review on stage 1 curriculum writing. Most of them have already gone through it, but wanted a refresher. We had 10 teachers that got trained in writing performance assessments, 20 that did some training on using formative assessments and using data to drive instruction, 26 that did training on competency-based grading, and 23 that did training on competency-based rubrics. So all in all, in our district time-specific sponsored PD, we had 215 staff members that participated in the sessions that we ran. That was awesome. I just have to say, I really, knowing that there was a lot of, all of the individual proposals came through me. We had over 100 different individual proposals that staff submitted, and that was LEA staff for the most part. It was just great to see that many people also participate, and a lot did hybrid. So they would, they submitted a proposal to get certified as a Google certified educator, and that would take so much time, and then they would jump into a couple of our sessions. A lot of the teachers did utilize the time to do Power School training, at least to get a sense for it. So it just really some awesome things that were going on. The deliverables were all delivered to the building principals, but I've had a lot of teachers sharing stuff with me that they want, especially the curriculum documents. I have asked all those to get shared with me, any work that was done from there. But I think we have a lot to look at over the summer and some great jumping off points for next year. Just a couple things that have come out of this from my end. I know there was having that follow-up to the remote learning was something that teachers had requested. So I definitely think as we transition back to next school year, whatever that looks like, we definitely will continue to do some follow-up and some debrief on that. And because of the feedback, there are a couple tech tools and things of that nature that have come up as really being something that staff wants some more access to, whether we are in brick and mortar or remote next year. So I'm looking into some of those as well. And that is it for my curriculum report. Any questions?
Mary, I had a question. I'm wondering if you could share what some of the takeaways were from the Now What session. I know you just mentioned that new technology, but what kind of learnings did the teachers get from, their experience, and what are they going to use to move forward?
Tara, that's something that I would actually have to, unless he wants to jump on now, Jason ran those. Jason and I ran concurrent sessions pretty much because we couldn't, neither one of us could be in both places, and we wanted to provide as many opportunities as we could for staff. So the remotes over now, what were sessions that were run by him, and we haven't had much of an opportunity since Friday to do a lot of debriefs. So I can get back to you with that.
I'm going to spin the computer around if Jason's comfortable jumping in here.
I just was looking for higher level, are there a couple of really key takeaways?
I think there was a couple of things that that kept on reoccurring. One of them was the equity piece at GMS. So it was really difficult, and this was one of the reasons why we didn't do like a BYOD one-to-one. They were saying it was really difficult because one student would be on one device, another to be on another, and it wouldn't necessarily, the path to get to accomplish the lesson wasn't consistent all the way through. So a lot of times the teacher spent a lot of time being tech support for just those basic navigation on how do I get this to work for this student and whatnot. So that came around significantly, and that was a lot of times that was like a GMS related question. A lot of other things were going back to what Mary said with the software, right? Like, it was great. I figured out how to do certain things with software that I didn't even know that existed, or I became a lot more proficient with using technology and with certain tools. And a lot of times too, they were like, well, I found that it was really important, and my tech skills went from X and they exponentially went up from there. But the reoccurring thing though was, more support from on the parent side. And then a lot of them found that it was pretty helpful, but it was a huge challenge. There was a lot of time and effort, and try one thing, try it again. So there's a lot of back and forth. And then a lot of people, then there's also others that were like, this was a wonderful experience. I've learned a lot. It was very helpful. And my hat's off to all those teachers, they did such a good job with all of that.
Thank you, Jason.
If I can just jump in for the board for a second, as you know, figuring out what the end of the school year was going to look like. I mean, there was a lot of anxiety around that. Our parents and students wanted to wrap the year up and know where they were going to land grade-wise. We wanted to make sure that we provided professional development for our teachers that was meaningful, that would help them to grow as individuals. Again, still unsure what next year is even going to look like, but there could be some element of remote involved in that. We don't know. So we wanted to make sure that there was opportunities for people to sort of wrap that up. So, we asked Mary to hit a home run with this, and she partnered with, Jason, IT, some other, our principals were helping with groups and so forth. So she won't acknowledge her work in this, but let me just tell you, she hit a grand slam because the feedback that we had from our teachers was very positive. And a lot of it was that it was really staff-driven PD with takeaways that they knew were meaningful to them. So it was not a sit and get PD. It was a smorgasbord of go and pick what you need to do in order to grow as an individual. So I just want to acknowledge Mary's work that went into getting that pulled off. So it was quite an effort. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from Mary?
I do have I think Julie is before the book proposal, but I didn't know if you wanted me to just put the book proposal out while I am still on the mic.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So we had a proposal go through PERC for an AP Science textbook, AP Chem, excuse me. And this came to us from Joanne Ray, who went through the training last summer. We are running AP Chemistry for the first time this fall.
The resource is Advantage Science. It's AP Chemistry 2. It was the one that was recommended by the College Board in the training that she went through. It aligns with the curriculum, the CV curriculum, and it is actually looking at she said that the rigor of the text is appropriate as a good workbook for students. There's a lot of practice questions, and it is set up in such a way to align directly with the AP exam. The pricing, I'm going to have to find that. I believe it was, $28 per student. It is a workbook, so they would need to be replaced annually for when the course runs. But we would be looking at an impact for next year. I told her to get a quote for 15. I know we have 12 enrolled and solidified right now, but just so we have a few in case people transfer in. So that's the budgetary impact that we are looking at for that. So I am looking for an approval of that book by the board.
I'll make a motion to approve textbook basic chemistry.
I second.
Second.
Tina made the motion, Liz second. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Muted.
Rob? Rob?
There, aye.
And Brian's an aye.
Sorry, my dog was barking. Aye.
Motion carries 5-0-0.
Thank you very much. I know Joanne will be very excited to hear that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Julie.
Thank you. So I was asked to come and just give an overview of what I've done this year with the ELO. The majority of the year, I've been meeting with the ELO network. ELO stands for Extended Learning Opportunities. And in those meetings, what it's really given me is it's given me an ability to reach out to people within like the New Hampshire DOE, New Hampshire Department of Labor, and learn about kind of everything behind the scene that we need to know to make sure that if our students or when our students go and are working at a business, what we need to do to make sure that we have crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's, and make sure that we and the students are protected, and also that the businesses are protected. So kind of from our behind the scenes, kind of learning a lot about that and networking with those different schools to find out what they have going on. There's been a bunch up in Concord. I've done one virtual with them, and then there's going to be another virtual next week. Once I come back from those, I've been meeting with both Bill and Jody to go over how we're going to bring that back and incorporate it into Campbell, working also with what we had going on at the building as far as what our students were doing at Campbell. I did take with me, or Demi Dion, she came with me, or I took her up to the New Hampshire Association School Principals. Is that what it was?
I think it was I thought it was the Superintendent's Association.
Superintendents. And she spoke in front of other curriculum directors. Mary was there, other school administration, about her experience within an ELO opportunity for robotics. And it was really interesting to hear other schools and what they had done, everything from an outreach program where upperclassmen went on hikes with lowerclassmen to kind of help bridge a social emotional learning and help kind of bring them up into the high school, to someone who worked at a nursing home. So there were a lot of different things that they brought to the table. The end of the year and what will be produced and out on the website before we go back to school is a website to have a place where we can have all the documents, everything from what you guys are going to approve with board to how a student is going to say, hey, I want to do this. Where's the application for me to fill out? Where to get different opportunities so they can start those gears working in their heads and start to think about what they want to do. This year, because of COVID, we did only have one student from the robotics team complete the half credit, mainly because they had the hours, but because they didn't finish the project and they can only get one full credit for robotics, they chose to defer it to next year. So that they're going to wait on. We did have one other student. I just remembered it the other day. And it was a student who over the summer last year had done something for art. And they had gone, I think, to New Hampshire Art Institute and had taken a summer course. And so they had gotten an art credit for that. I did start reaching out to community connections. I talked with Continental Hair School. They were really excited. And so I think that there's some really good opportunities when we find the right candidate. And I also reached out to Silvertech, and they do it more at a higher level, but they really wanted to work with us to maybe bring students in and have them come in and learn about the different opportunities that are available to them. So that's something, hopefully, once we're past all the COVID stuff, or even if we do have a hybrid next year, it might be something that we can do, even something like this, and have the students log in and talk to the different people in their different roles at Silvertech to learn more about opportunities post-school.
We had someone there, Julie, I think before you started, work at Silvertech and do an internship. I think it's awesome. Former board member Derek there. That'll be awesome.
It would be. I think, it's really finding that right student and the right fit. And that's one of the things that I've really kind of found through all this is that getting kids to understand what an ELO is and the fact that they can take control over their learning, they can figure out a question that they want to solve, and they can pick the competencies. They can build their curriculum, and then they can go out and work with, people in the community, people who might be a future employer that will help them to get that experience. So it is a great opportunity. It's just having them understand that and having them get in there and start, building that interest and then working with me to get that done. So,
Julie, thank you for this. Could I just ask Mike, are we looking at this as a way that it's not going to impact like GPA or it'll count for credit, it'll count as part of the high school experience? Is that where it will lead eventually?
Yeah, yes, we are. And if you remember at the last meeting, we talked about that we've contracted with a consultant to help us clean up all of those credit options. It feels like over time, there were a lot of things added by the state, by the way, ELOs, alternative credits, distance learning. I mean, there's all these phrases and requirements that we have. And so we're looking to kind of get that all caught up into one place and really afford students with the various opportunities to earn credits. And I think, going into uncertainty next year, this is a way, I see one of the limitations is, well, when can a student do this, right? So we don't have this built into the schedule, but if we're in some sort of a quasi-hybrid schooling experience, then this is a wonderful opportunity for students to design something they're passionate about and to get after it. And so, I think we may have gotten very lucky that we invested into Julie, and Julie took on the task of figuring this out and getting it streamlined, because tapping into this in the fall is something I think could be a real attractive piece.
Yeah. And I think that's, a key point is that as those incoming freshmen come in, to do a presentation similar to this to them, to get them excited about the different opportunities. And to get their parents excited as well. So that's the importance of that website. It's the importance of making sure that the information's out there. But, to your point, Dr. Jetty, even up at in our meetings, we had Commissioner Edelblatt come on, and that confusion of all these different things is even a confusion up there at the State House. there's all these different things. When they did a survey last year, there were people who were counting their senior and sophomore projects as ELOs. And so their numbers looked awesome for ELOs, but then when we started talking about it, I'm like, well, every single one of our students at Campbell did one of those, so our numbers shouldn't be, only a few, because when you look at that, our students are, really doing the same thing in our sophomore and senior projects. So it is an interesting thing to look at all those components, and I'm glad to see that we are kind of taking a look at that and, figuring out what are the options, and is this for credit? I don't know. Up until now, it's been a pass-fail. I think if it's going to go for an actual GPA calculation, I think that's when you start to get more into having teachers come in, and they need to then, whether it's they have a sixth period or, that's kind of for you guys to figure out, but they then have to give that number value. There's only a few things that I'm certified to be able to step in for, but that's when we would need to get some other players in here to get that grade point value.
That's correct. With the in order to get the course level credit, there has to be a teacher certified in that area that is assessing the student competencies. So it kind of opens a different avenue for us. And I'm actually meeting with Heather Friday. Sorry, I forgot what day it was. To discuss some of the policies and start. She wanted to kind of pick my brain on those things as she's looking at what we're doing as well around the area of ELOs and independent studies and where those kinds of things and where they overlap.
So Mary, just in connection with that, Jody's really just on top of some of those things, particularly when you talk about work studies and co-ops and those other things. So wouldn't be a bad idea if you reached out to her or me if you had any questions or concerns. I have that same question. We have these 40 hours for a sophomore project or senior project, but if they do so many extra hours, they can get the credit. Well, okay, let's look at what they're doing in other parts of the state and think about, should we be giving them credit for those, and maybe not toward GPA, but credit for our course. I think that's really a valid question to really start examining carefully.
Do you have any other questions? I think in my presentation, I did say, some of the limitations are the fact that students are quite busy with sophomore and senior projects. So then finding time, I think to Bill's point, maybe taking it and when they do want to go for credit, maybe transferring it over as an ELO at that point, but looking at different ways that we can that I can help, or that we can, share the wealth, so to speak. And even though we don't have a lot of local businesses, I think that, when I do approach them, they are very excited at these opportunities. And so finding the kids who have the interest and then finding the right business, which I'm excited to do. I did find that when I went out to the businesses and said, hey, are you interested in this? They got really excited. But then when I didn't have a kid to immediately put in there, it kind of fizzled things out. So I've kind of taken a step back from reaching out to them. I think what I'm going to do instead is kind of start to work with things like the Rotary and the Lions Club, different business organizations, and kind of start working with them next year to try and make some connections, use them as a jumping off point to get into different businesses. And then as the kids have that interest, have people kind of waiting in the wings, not that I've completely jumped on board with, but that I know are excited or have worked with maybe Dairy or with London Dairy or with Hudson or Manchester, and be able to kind of piggyback off of the communities that are around us.
So Julie, a resource for you might be Natalie Hurdy or even Sue Jositis, because I know a couple years ago they invited me to a meeting where they were brainstorming lists of people in town that could come in and participate in a career day. So I know they had a lot of people there, so that's one resource. And,
I looked at the website. I think it's a great start. Like me, I had no idea what an ELO was. I was like, thank you for defining it because I had to look it up. I don't have high school kids though. So I think probably one of the biggest things on the website is maybe giving examples of what some other kids have done at Campbell. Because I didn't understand what that meant. And there's a lot of resources that you link to, but you gotta, I think it would be helpful for people to know what kids have already done and what does that look like. So
Awesome. Thank you for the feedback.
thank you.
Anything else for Julie? Julie, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thanks, Julie. Good night.
Thank you.
Are you all set with me as well?
Bill, I think you're all set. Thank you.
Hey, great job, Bill, on the graduation.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Oh, it was
So
well done.
Team effort. I mean,
I think
Mike,
we're set on Mary's.
you can't name everybody. I'm going to be writing out thank you cards tomorrow.
That was a timely running machine. I'm telling you, I was impressed.
Thank you.
I-
appreciate that.
I was really happy to be behind the scenes and help with the kind of the whole parking thing. And it was really, I mean, you have no idea. Well, you probably do, Bill, but the rest of us have no idea how complex their seating plan was. Because, like, the people farthest away got the closest seats to, to the back. And then so everybody it was just astonishing how well planned out it was.
Thank you.
Congrats.
It was a great plan.
Yeah, that was all Mike Perez. His mind operates in a different way than mine. All right. Hey, thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, Bill.
All right.
And Mary, I think we're all set with you also, if you'd like to go enjoy your evening.
I'm going to find some place with AC.
Come over, Mary. Come on over.
Don't come to Litchfield Town Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye, Mary.
Bye. All right, that'll bring us to the business reports.
All right, just to address a couple questions you had on the budget transfers, I looked them up really quick. Number one, on the listing for projects and purchases, when I clicked on the link on the one in here, it still had my canopy project in it, and it still had the, as you mentioned before, the carpet machine. The carpet machine was purchased at the end of April as an emergency replacement because that had broken. So that refreshed my memory as to why. So in the first listing here where I put items that have been removed, that should have been included in there. That's out of that list for next year.
$1,800 for one of those machines?
For a carpet machine, yeah.
Wow.
The auto scrubbers for the
Yeah, I'd love one in my house.
like $7,000.
So,
Like they're not cheap.
so what's the other charge for the 890, whatever, for carpet?
Exactly. I looked down the detail of the budget transfer is exactly what Bill said. It was moving a whiteboard into a Bobex classroom.
Okay. But there was two carpet machine charges, transfers on.
It was two amounts to come up to the cost of the invoice. He was moving the money from the accounts that had it into the equipment account.
So that's gonna come off. That'll come off future purchases.
Yep.
Do you have an update listing? I mean,
I
this will be-
do. I can share it. Share it over right now as my sheet. I'll send it to do you prefer the individual emails or the school board email?
School board.
Do we need to re-vote on the approval, or are we all set?
You haven't approved it yet.
Okay.
No, the budget transfers we did.
Right.
Yeah.
But you didn't carve those out. You just wanted the answer. Yeah.
Right.
So the motions.
All right, I just sent it over the school board email. So this, in putting my folder together that I shared with Michelle the other day, everything's consistent. It's consistent. It just doesn't. It still had the items on here that I had noticed as removed and didn't have the carpet machine on there. So this is the accurate. One main thing that I'll mention, I did mention that some of the curriculum curriculum-based subscriptions, textbooks for the FACTS program because of the enrollment, and Performance Plus, those renewals for next year have already moved forward, so I removed them from the original list. Dan Del Greco, who's our daytime custodian at DHS, lo and behold, we find out that he's an experienced painter, and so he, for the cost of paint, has been working on the CHS cafeteria. Me and Mike went by there today. It's looking really, really good. He did get your email, Terry. Really, really appreciated that. So he's doing, he's plugging along with that. We also found out, and I just found out today, that Manny down at LMS, who's the nighttime lead, he also has painting experience. So he's working on projects down there as well. So those are good things. It helps us to save on those. You know, you're going to have $2,700 savings by just purchasing paint and having our own staff being able to do those things.
It kind of switches things up too. I would think they'd find it a little change of pace.
Right.
There's only so much cleaning you can do on empty buildings. So there's definitely whatever we can get them to do, keep them busy. It's definitely been good. As we get down, I'll have a little more detail towards the end of the report. We're anticipating a pretty healthy deficit in food service. There's really not all that much after March 16th without the local revenues in the schools. There really wasn't much we could do about it. We were still receiving federal reimbursement. However, when you're not getting the local sales, which make up the biggest part of your revenues for the year, my initial calculation is that to date, we've lost about $123,000 in those revenues while still paying our most of our food service staff to be on hand. We're still not buying as much food because the limited lunch options and what was being served, so there wasn't as much being purchased in that. So those costs are down, but the revenues being down really took an impact.
So Corey, look at those two numbers. Because there's actually another number. Year-end deficit is $125,327. Is that
currently? That's not final.
Yeah, but is that going to be offset from expenses being down by the $78,891?
No, those are just those are the numbers. It's a $125,000 deficit that would have to be subsidized from the.
So they've actually lost over $200,000. It is being, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Yes, that's the net loss, revenues, expenditures. 125,000. Yep. How much were they losing before COVID started? They were in the 38 range, I believe. So we lost about $90,000 in a couple months. So let's, I did reach out to Pete Currow in Londonderry, the Megan Mazzaro, the food service in Goffstown School District, Deb Mahoney in Pelham. I reached out to them just to see what they're seeing. It's not unique. The board in Goffstown took a public vote to subsidize the food service up to $275,000. Every district in the state. And the opinion that I got from Megan Mazzaro is that going into next year, this is probably going to be a maintained problem depending on where we are school-wise. The ability to generate revenue and not knowing exactly how you're going to be able to utilize your cafeterias, how you're going to be able to serve, how you're going to be able to do these things. What can you serve? You know, there's a real possibility that this thing on the food service side carries into next year for all districts. I can't imagine there's any districts in the state that aren't absorbing losses on the local side of revenue. I mean, 3 months worth of revenue. It's a lot of money. But you you don't have any expenses outside of payroll.
Well, is payroll is a separate fund for food service workers? Is that true, or is that out of salaries and benefits?
Payroll's in the food service.
Okay. We
we had 4 individuals within the food service program that elected not to. So we had savings in their salaries. Other than that, everybody else was working either in the buildings when they were doing prep, doing the lunch service, or doing their PD as required. So all but 4 stayed on and worked the hours that were expected. So as part of the operations subcommittee of the task force, one of the things is to sit down, and we have 2 of the 3 leads on there right now with Lauren. Ask Kristen to come along too, because I think the perspective of all 3 buildings is extremely important in those discussions, and try to find ways to limit the hurt of it. But this is when you're not getting that big piece, such as how do you handle an a la carte sale? You know, you're probably not, and that's a big chunk of money at CHS, those local pieces. So we'll have to work our way through those things and see what this is going to look like. I'll go back for a second. Are there any questions on the listing as presented? Or we can
It just looks to me like about 60% of food service costs this year were salary. So it's a big proportion of, it's not quite the teacher salary proportion, right? But 60%, it's a big portion.
Yeah, and to some degree, there still are open. I think even when we were in session, we still had open positions. So not every position was filled. But I think there's a better way to manage that as well with the staff that we have on hand. So I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to take a look at it as we get through the summer and exactly what the plans are as we hit the next school year. With that being said, I provided financial statements as of right now, and I gave a listing at the bottom of the top half of the sheet, which is the balance sheet. I take into account all the warrant articles that were approved in March, what those amounts are going over the trustees and trust funds. I listed, it's on here as 189,642, but it should be 186,792, consistent with the listing. And with all that being said, I recalculated the estimated tax impact, return of $734,500. That would stabilize the tax rate to go into next year. And I added a category that says assigned fund balance in terms of the amount of money that I believe we would have available to spend towards the LMS canopy project. So if you couple that 186 for the canopy with what we have from the state, we should be pretty close to getting that project done out of money we already have on hand. Maybe need some money from the capital reserve, the facilities improvement capital reserve, just to finish it off.
We don't have any bids yet for that project, correct?
What's that?
We don't have any bids yet.
I received a inquiry from a contractor in Guilford as of this morning to just ask, but all of the RFP went out, I believe, last week.
Yeah.
With the drawings as provided by David Ely. And David Ely is going to be the point of contact because those are his preliminary drawing set. And as he goes through and gets the construction documents completed, thoughts on materials, he can provide them with additional information, and he'll keep me in the loop as to what kind of questions they have. So that we have that one, and I'm pretty sure the one that the contractor that gave us the initial kind of rough estimate, the 317 of what he anticipated it to cost, I do expect to hear from him as well. So at very least, well, I'm so far thinking we're going to hear from 2.
Right, but right now it's just guesswork of how much this project's going to cost.
Say again?
Right now we're just guessing how much it's going to come in because we don't have any bids.
Yeah, we got to get that bid. We got to get that.
Right, but you mentioned $186,000 plus $100,000 from the state. Should cover it, but we don't know that yet.
Yeah, so we were looking at the base estimate was 317.5, which I had added a contingency into when I applied for the grant, 10%. So yeah, it could come in higher than that 317. We do have almost $300,000 in the capital reserve. So I do believe we would have some, at least if we had money from the fund balance and then the grant that gets reimbursed, some money from the capital reserve, I think we'd be in pretty good shape.
Corey, but just for my clarification purposes, because I know the budget committee is going to ask this. So our top end estimate for that project is 317.5. Is that what we're saying?
That was based on the original estimate when he provided the preliminary drawings to us.
Okay.
And that was our reimbursement from the state was capped at $100,000 at the time.
Yep.
They didn't give us They didn't give us our 80%. They capped it at $100,000 for that projects. I'm also still in touch with the state to see if any additional funding does pop up from those projects. There was a Google sheet due back to the state this afternoon to ask of intention of when you anticipate the project to be completed and are you going to be requesting this reimbursement. So that was due at the end of the day. I put in, but we're hoping by the end of August, September, have the project completed. And yes, we will be requesting the money by the end of December. So that information is in there with the state. Maybe some projects fall off that list and we're able to get some additional money. So that being said, we are working with David. We're working with David right now. He helped me actually put the RFP together to send that out. He's going to field questions on our behalf, and he's going to work with us through the project. We've also signed on. We were in contact with Dick Henry and David Ely as well for the energy efficiency, because there's a lot of concern about when you're going back into the school building and you're talking about faulty systems and controls and not enough fresh air coming into the buildings. So it's really important to get moving on that project. And we've communicated with the capital improvement committee that's in our intention over the next couple of years to be working towards those energy efficiencies and getting fresh air into our buildings, which would be lovely. That's what I have for tonight. Are there any questions on the list of projects or?
Did you send us an updated list of projects?
I just shared it with you through Google in the school board email.
Okay.
Did it come through?
Yes,
I haven't checked.
I got it.
So is this still a fluid document, or are we voting on this at some point?
We're going to have to start within the next, I'd say you're probably going to we'd probably be looking for a vote tonight. So we can start working on the purchase orders to carry into next year.
Otherwise, I think you're cutting it too close. You wait.
No, I understand. It's confusing to not have a. The individual championship banners, I thought that the boosters were paying for those.
They're having a golf tournament for it, aren't they?
As far as I know, I don't know that they were paying for the banners. I can't remember what they're paying for inside. If you
Because I thought when we had the discussion about the bleachers, they said they were
That
going to
was
inside and take care of the banners.
that was the last word I got from Josh, I think, right before the last meeting, the last school board meeting.
But his most recent update to me asking for funding for to discuss for tonight was to bring those championship banners forward.
Because he can't have golf.
He requested that to me.
Because what, Liz?
because he can't have the golf tournament. I swore that was what the banners and the new board and all that stuff. I guess I'm all confused with things that are hanging from the walls.
Why can't we have the golf tournament? I thought we approved that.
Oh, I don't know if he's planning on having it this year or in the fall.
They're having golf tournaments, I'll tell you that, you know.
I know.
I'm also concerned that I don't see anything on this list as far as improving sanitation and, making those improvements for reopening potentially in the fall. It's the same list from back in May, and I thought we had talked about, I know that I saw in your last report that you had a price list for the auto touch, the no touch faucets and hand sanitizers and all those things. But we didn't have on that.
In the conversations, I mean, for fully touchless tools, you're talking about $140,000 to $150,000.
Well,
You're talking about a lot of maintenance, a lot of battery changing, a lot of things that don't necessarily save as much money as you would think in terms of water flow and such.
About cleanliness and not about money. You know what I mean?
I do understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, and you're also looking at, with a lot of the stuff, if you're to look at like touchless toilets for the elementary school, for example, that whole building would have to be retrofitted because the piping is the incorrect size. So you're talking $150,000 to buy all these products.
no, I'm not. I'm not talking about toilets and urinals. I'm talking about hand washing, sinks, soap dispensers, paper towels, and things for GMS that can be moved potentially to a new building.
So, Tina, I'm thinking if you take a look at some of the spend ahead we're doing off of next year's budget,
Yep.
that I think once the task force comes up with the direction of what we're going to be doing about opening schools and what needs to be done, I think we've saved enough money right now that if that's required or is necessary, then we can utilize some of the money we're saving right now from spending ahead to purchase those items. But I think just waiting first to find out. I mean, it seems like every day that things change. First, you have to wear gloves. Now they're saying don't wear gloves. Then, as far as re-entering the school, I mean, it's different. Like gowns were talked about, and they're saying gowns are useless to have on. So it depends what environment you're in and what we're going to be doing. But I understand I hear what you're saying. That what are we going to do as
I
far
think
as
that's the universal thing that everybody.
Not touching the thing that goes up and down after you wash your hands.
yeah. But if you listen to CBC and everything else, nothing talk about like what kind of faucet you need or what kind of soap dispenser. Just wash your hands. That's all it's directed.
Right, but we don't even have facilities for our kids to wash their hands coming in and before they eat.
Or hot water.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, and I completely understand. And I think as we get working on the to Brian's point, as we get working in the task forces and have better idea from the state of what we're looking at, then we start looking towards the money that we've spent some stuff ahead, things that were in next year's budget, and now we have some room to make some transfers and make some progress to do those things. I think we need to see what the plan is first, or start working towards what that plan is to figure out
So
exactly.
the challenge is the final recommendations from the state aren't coming out till July, and then, it's going to take some time to get an answer, and then is there then time to implement it? That's the big question. What about even those portable hand washing stations that I sent a picture of? I mean, is that an option to just? How much are those? I don't even know.
You put out a portable hand washing station outside that maybe you get a couple months out of, and then it's going to freeze and you can't use it anymore.
Well, portable, you can take it in.
There's no place to drain it. There's no place to. There's a lot of challenges that I think need to be discussed.
Yeah.
Tara, we've also talked. I mean, part of what we're assuming is that students are coming from the playground directly into the cafeteria, and that may not even be the case, right? So there's there's all sorts of what's the right procedure on this. Are they going to be eating in their classroom? Is hand sanitizer in the classroom a better option? So really when the task force sits down, I think we've got to look at all those various options. We've priced it all out, right? So we know paper towel dispensers that we wave our hand in front of. I think that's $7,000 or $8,000 just to replace all those off. But that's better than pumping the handle that
Right.
may, you just washed your hands and now you're touching this handle that may be contaminated. So we have to weigh each one of these pieces. There's also a training component for the students. It's like, how do you properly wash your hands? Knowing the conditions here, like what is it you need to do? So when I approach the paper towel dispenser now, I dispense the paper towels so they're hanging there. And then I wash my hands, so I don't have to touch that again. I can then take the clean towel. But I had to train myself to think that way. And we can train our students to follow the right steps. And that's a zero cost piece too. So it runs the gamut from, and I'm glad to hear you say that you weren't talking about urinals and toilets, because
No.
I'll tell you, those devices, that is big bucks. And
No, that's not necessary.
No.
and it doesn't really accomplish a lot. So thank you for that.
Okay.
I guess I do have a question about I thought we cut the $6,000 out of the banners last fall on the budget, but now we're putting $10,000 in for the banners I'm just not comfortable with that right now, myself.
I don't think it's a have to.
We can take anything off the list that we
Um,
want, or add anything.
Yeah.
The ed puzzle, is that, if that's a renewal, wouldn't that have already been budgeted? Or is that something we now, because of remote learning, have realized that this is a good resource? And I know math, 7th grade math used it every day, but I
This
just
was,
wanted to be sure it was a new resource that,
Jason is confirming that is a new resource that came about as
Okay.
a part of remote learning.
I saw it a lot too, Tara.
So is there anything that someone would like to put on or take off of this list?
I'd like to make a motion to take the banners off. I just don't think it's the right time right now in this way.
I'll second it.
My other question too with the banners is I thought there was also talk about raffling off the existing ones to get some monies to pay for the banners.
That's an option, and I thought that was part of the golf tournament too. That was in the golf tournament proposal, wasn't it?
I don't remember what the golf tournament was, the monies were going for.
I don't remember
I
either.
don't know if they specify where it's going.
It was for all sports. It wasn't one particular
Yeah.
sport. It was all sports. That's what I remember.
But it was indoor too. It was, I
Yes.
remember the indoor focus.
What? Did we discuss the Chromebook expansion?
Do you have a
Well,
second?
can we stay first with the banners? We have a motion and a second to remove it.
Oh, there is a second?
Who made the motion, Rob?
Yes,
And who's second?
Tara.
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 Okay. So all those in favor of removing the banners signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. 5-0-0. I'm sorry, the next question someone had?
Oh, I was going to ask about the 3rd grade Chromebook expansion, and how that is going, and whether that helps us reach our goal. You know, I think with remote learning, I think we kind of saw a need for everybody from kindergarten up through 12 needs devices, and I thought the goal was to go to 1 to 2 at GMS. So I can't find Jason's memo right now. My concern is that I mean, if we're still remote in the fall and for most of next year, it's not a pressing issue. But when we do go back to school, we now have all of our teachers are comfortable in Google Classroom and on using online resources. I think it makes more sense to push forward with the 1 to 2 at GMS. I'm just wondering
Are we
how far
doing fourth
away
grade next
are
year?
we from that point
Fourth grade
in
is
grade
1 to 2.
How much would that cost?
Oh,
day
right.
1 and 2?
So this would bring that 1 to 2 now to the third grade.
So I can't see the document because I'm driving the meeting.
Find it now.
So how much is it to expand to third?
17.8.
17.8?
17.
And
And
so,
those are-
so what that does is, and I'm looking at Jason, but I think I just heard him say that puts us 2-to-1 Chromebook. If we do that, it'll be 2-to-1 Chromebooks in 3rd and 4th grade.
They're currently 4th grade.
We have 4th now,
So this would bring it
Okay.
down.
and this will bring it down to 3rd. So we'll gain one more class that has access. And we're purchasing the power towers that they can, plug into and
Wall mounted.
wall mounted.
Does that take any Chromebooks carts away from grades 1 and 2?
No.
Because right now they have one cart for 4
Their
classes,
cart
right?
to either 2-1 or if they're doing computers on a cart, they do that.
Yep.
Whatever.
So it does not take away, but it actually will take the 3rd grade cart and make that available to other grades, younger grades. So
Okay.
it actually enhances their ability, not 2-to-1, but it will enhance.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, concerns?
So we feel pretty confident then that this is enough buy ahead for next year that we're in an okay spot.
I think it's really important to be able to stabilize that tax rate, especially because you don't know how long this recovery is going to take. So the
Yeah.
closer we get to keeping that pretty level for the residents of Litchfield, I think it shows good faith. I think it's a good thing. You don't want to, as much as I know everybody would like to see their taxes go down, to keep them level, at least if there is an increase in the following year, it's not going to be as dramatic. So
Okay.
Bless you.
And what's the amount right now that we're projecting? Or should I wait and get a firmer number on that? For
final fund balance,
yeah.
right now, I mean, as of last Friday, 1.33.
So, I mean, you threw the number out there just a little while ago. I think that's what Tina's asking, is 700,000 plus. What's going back to the taxpayers anticipated right now?
734.5.
734.
And that's gonna offset our warrant articles, which will leave it at the same tax rate as this year, correct?
Yeah.
That's what Tina was looking for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. That
You're
was my next question. Okay, and then, so this document, we'll vote on it, and that will become what of the underspend that we're buying ahead, right?
Yes.
Okay,
It's become the encumbrance listing.
okay.
And I think,
Excuse me, when you vote, can you vote on the final total of this list so we have that in the record?
yeah, it'd be 444,602.
This one, it's the one I shared during the 176,792.
What?
$176,792.
Okay.
Because you took the LMS project out of there, correct?
I took it out of there and noted it. I put it separately. So actually, yeah, you'd have to vote on that. I'd have to put it in.
Separately. So, vote on it separately? Would have to, right? Or do you just put it back in there?
I will add in 180. 186.
792 and 250.
$363, $437.
Three
So
what?
that's our year-end spending, including the LMS canopy project.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was the total?
$363, $437.
The spreadsheet is updated.
Okay, thank you.
So just for clarification, that means still the 734 point, the 734.5 is still going back to taxpayers.
That's already accounted for, yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm confused right now, Corey. The email you sent, the new update, was 186,792. That was less the canopy project. So canopy project,
Then we took out the banners, so one set was 176.
792.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, 176. Okay. So I'm off even more then. Okay, 176? That's not making any sense. What's 176 and 250? It's 426. So it's still not coming out. I got 176,792.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna add the canopy back in, it's 250.
You want to put no, I was putting back in what I had projected as left over from the financial sheet. So I added back in 186,645.
So instead of 250, it's 186.
Yeah, 186,645 plus the 176,792. So 360,37.
363437.
Yep.
All right, I was adding 250 back in.
Did you get that, Tina?
Yes, 363, 437, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Written down on my notepad.
Was there a motion to approve year-end encumbrances purchases of 363,437?
Can I just ask another question? The locker room floor for LMS, $40,000. What actually needs to be done there?
A new
Is it a
floor?
special floor?
Yep. I would imagine you're gonna remove the existing, correct?
I believe it's an epoxy floor.
Yeah.
It is.
It's smelly.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
I just realized my seat goes back, so I might be going like this.
All right, we're gonna lose Liz out the window.
Right.
I'll make a motion, Brian. Was it 363, 347,
437.
437 for year-end improvements?
Rob made the motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
That Liz? Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
Brian's an aye. Motion passes 500. Do we have anything else for Corey?
So actually, I want Corey.
I'm asking the board, I know
Oh,
they
I'm
had it.
sorry.
That's right.
I thought you were letting him go. I'm like, don't let him go.
No, let him go. Does anyone have anything else for Corey right now? All right. So, Michelle, can you send the reports, the business reports to the budget committee
I will.
along with, well, all the reports we have, there's like 7 or 8 of them. And send them all to them.
Yeah, if you could include that list of projects, that would be good too.
Yeah, if he just sends all 8 of them, all food service and all the rest of them.
Yeah, Corey, you wanna send me that expenditure list when you update it, and then I'll, get that to the budget committee.
Will do. I'll send it to you right now, because I just
Okay.
updated it.
All right, thank you. That'll bring us to committee reports. Any
No,
committees?
actually, the dining reports.
You skipped over.
Oh, I didn't know, I thought he was all done. That's his.
No, that's what I want to make sure he.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Corey's got a proposal from food service to look at trying to correct some of the revenue shortfall. So I'm going to let him present because he and Lauren have put together a program relative to breakfast going forward. So
So as part of the shutdown, all meals served were coming out of the high school. That's where you'll see differences, and we were only serving out of one building. The state allowed us to file for reimbursement just through that one building. But as part of it, you started serving breakfast, and that's something we're one of the few districts in our area that does not serve a breakfast option in our lower 2 schools. We do in the high school, we do not at LMS or GMS. So Lauren did come forward as we go into next year, putting together a expanded breakfast program for the GMS and LMS. That would be kind of a grab and go type option with a warm and a cold option. And then in the case where you do have free and reduced families and kids in town, you're having access to two good meals a day. So she does see it as an opportunity to generate more revenue. There would not need you don't need additional hours in order to do it. The food service leads would be able to do the prep and the service as the kids come into the building. Hopefully they are coming into the building. And hopefully that would help to generate some more revenue, some more federal reimbursement, and expand the program a bit more.
Corey, can I ask, since LMS cuts it so close and they don't let anybody in the building, whether they're freezing or not, until 7:30, they don't let the first car out until it's 7:30, and their kids are rushing in, and it takes 10 minutes. Teachers, I think kids deserve breakfast, and they won't be able to get breakfast and get to class, and that will be a problem because they don't open the doors till 7:30 for the first student.
Okay, Liz, that's a question. That's gonna be a question we have to talk to Tom about.
Okay.
As far as, if we need to adjust times, if we're gonna do breakfast, obviously there's a need to change times.
There is absolutely a need for breakfast in every school.
And I envision when I was in Goffstown, New Boston, they were bringing breakfast, a grab and go option into the New Boston Center School, and they had the food service lead or the kitchen manager would stand at the door, and as the kids came in, they wrote down their number or they had a keypad there or something. They took it and they put the information in later. The kids grabbed their food and they went to class. So it can be quick. It would be a grab and go option, and you keep on your way to first period.
Thank you. It was awesome.
So,
Sorry.
Corey, what's the thought process? Where are they eating this food?
I think we're looking at a situation based on where we are right now, where I don't think we're going to be utilizing cafeterias in the fall.
Right, no, so let's say we're back to everything running the way it should be running. So the kids at GMS, they grab their breakfast. Where are they gonna eat it?
Class.
When?
First thing, I would assume. These have to be more further discussions with Lauren, but I think you're going to see a lot of meals being eaten inside classrooms.
Okay, well, I think that's something going forward we can discuss with the task force. I'm just thinking of it right now. If this were COVID didn't occur, just how this is going to work. So
Yeah.
I picture a half-hour disruption at the beginning of the school day with a bunch of first graders trying to open their milk and whatever and cereal and however they're doing it. So I don't know if you gave some thought, and maybe that's part of the task force can discuss how this would go about, how this would work. Do they come in early and have to have breakfast? I don't know. I think it's a great idea as far as feeding breakfast, but I think we need to figure out how we're going to do it.
This is in the initial planning phases. This is our proposal to the board to expand the program.
Great.
Definitely things that would need to be worked out along the way, but any suggestions or any ways to make it work efficiently would be good.
There'll be a lot of time while we take 400 temperatures every morning
Right.
Right.
to
First,
eat.
let's get ready. Then, then it will work like it should.
Is there any initial upfront investment required to start breakfast or no?
No, we add it to our food service application for next year, and we implement the program.
Additional staffing?
Yeah, that was.
No, because I think the intent would be to have the leads run the program in the morning.
Campbell,
They're already there. They're on site. I think they would run the program and then go back into the kitchen and begin the prep for lunch.
how much does Campbell do in breakfast? I know it kind of staggers from, it probably goes from 7:30 till 9 for the first block or period. Because I know my kids get breakfast every day there, muffins, or not that they could eat at my house, but they go. No, I think it would be awesome.
I think it's a popular program at the high school.
Yeah.
The other thing too, though, is the buses for the high school arrive 40 minutes early. So my daughter will eat breakfast because she had 40 minutes to kill at the beginning of the day.
Plenty of time.
Yeah, which was great for her, but we don't have that built in at the other schools. Something to consider.
Anything else, Corey?
I did provide additional underneath that a food service revenue comparison and expenditure comparison, looking last year to this year, so you can see an idea of where the revenues are off and where the expenditures are down. So I did provide those in there for your review if you want to look at them.
Anyone have any questions? Thanks, Corey.
All right, thank you.
Now it brings us to committee reports. Unless we have something else.
No, which committee though?
Well, Matt, I don't know if any committees met.
I wasn't sure if there were any committee reports that were gonna be done tonight, because of the town CIP committee. I wasn't sure if you wanted anything.
Yeah, I have some information on that. I don't know if anyone else has met. I don't think so, right?
Yeah, budget committee has not met yet. We'll meet next week or the week after.
So I just have a few notes as far as the CIP, our last meeting, which was a Monday, I think. Because fire presented, and then police came back and gave some clarification as far as what they're looking for. And I want to share the information because I don't know where it's going to coincide with if we go for a new elementary school. I reached out to Chairman Weber asking, because I asked the police chief sergeant if he had a year when he was looking for as far as this police station coming forward. And as he said, the sooner the better, which is understandable. So I reached out to Chairman Weber and asked if he had a date, and he said the selectmen, as at this time, had not had any discussion as far as where it would fall in the calendar. And I said, because the last thing I'd want to see is that coinciding with GMS, and he agrees. So just to give you some updates, the fire department has two things on their list, and they're both fire trucks. The first they want to purchase in 2021 for $662,000. Which replaces the tanker. And the second is for the year 2022, which is $623,000, which replaces engine 2. Both of them have more or less surpassed their life expectancy. My understanding that parts are almost not available for those two items. And those were the only two items they had on there. And they were looking for a lease purchase. Again, they weren't sure exactly what time frame, but they were thinking about an 8-year lease purchase to spread those payments out.
Are those both new trucks, brand new trucks?
They are, yes. And the way it works with the fire department, especially like a truck like that, they order it and then it gets built. So it actually takes about 2 years before they see that truck. Then, like I said, Chief Sergeant came back and had some updates as far as the police department. He initially had said they were looking for a building of 12,600 square feet. And it was at a cost of approximately $10 million. He came back the other evening with looking for a building of 10,400 square feet at about a $6 million cost. The building itself is $4 million, but then you have to put everything else inside it, communications, electronics, the cells, and so on. So it came out to, like I said, about a $6 million add-on. And they would be adding on, if you're looking from Albuquerque at the fire station, it would go like up the back door. I didn't ask the question because it looks like it would go into, pick up most of the parking lot. I'm not sure how the fire trucks are then get around it, but
I saw that drawing somewhere. Was that, yeah,
Andrew posted it.
but did he?
and the other department that was there was conservation, and they're looking for over the course of the 6-year capital plan for an additional $2 million to purchase land. She couldn't. I asked how much land they currently own, and she wasn't certain. Jill, so she'll be getting back to the committee hopefully and let us know how much acreage they own already. One of the parcels of land they're looking for is riverfront, and another is off of Albuquerque that would then bring a trail to the library. So we don't know exactly where the parcels of land are, and I told her, it would be helpful as far as capital planning to know where these parcels are, as far as for approval. So all I know is that there are several parcels they're looking at, and it sounds like they've already been in negotiations a little bit with the individuals who own the property. And my understanding right now, they have a fund of approximately $700,000. It might be a little under that, and they're expecting some funds to bring it up to like $700,000. So so you can see that there are some big tickets on this capital planning aside from GMS. And my biggest concern, that's why I reached out to Chairman Weber and asked the police department, is that it doesn't fall in the same year that we're looking for a school. That's not going to be advantageous for either one of us. That was about it.
I think it's important that people realize with state aid that our need to apply in advance, we're sort of locked into biennium decisions. So, if we're going to do our planning, it's really relative to our opportunity for state reimbursement. And so it's important that we stay on schedule.
Was there any further discussion with the capital improvement plan about whether the town would have any interest in purchasing GMS or using that as a town asset?
That was initially supposed to be our meeting, was to have discussion. If the police department went ahead, what do you do with the old police department? If GMS went ahead, what do you do with the old GMS? So that was supposed to be our meeting. And 2 hours later, all of a sudden, we were going to start discussing it. I said, can we just save this for a separate meeting? Because I think it's going to be, quite a bit of conversation to take place. What do you do with these buildings? So that hasn't been done, and I believe it will be done in our next meeting.
Okay.
All right. So that brings us to coronavirus with you.
All right, so I want to start with talking about the fall school reopening plan. So our task force is getting up and going. The oversight committee, which is the sort of decision-making arm of the task force, met on Monday, and we took a look at, we had 102 volunteers across the community between teachers, students, and parents who want to be a part of it. And so we're finalizing when we're going to meet, how we're going to get our work done, et cetera. So I would anticipate that parents and students and staff will hear from us by the end of the week with invites to be on which work group, whether it's operations, we've got instruction, we've got technology, and we have student wellness. And so people will hear what they're being invited to join and then when the meetings will be. So our goal is to get up and meeting the week of July the 6th. So that's right around the corner, and it should coincide with the release of the state report so that we can start to get our work done. So that's where we stand relative to the task force. And the other piece that I wanted to talk about is a reopening plan for our school staff. Well, let me just pause for a second. Are there any questions about the task force or the work at hand? I want to make sure the board is comfortable with where we are with it. All right, so let me shift gears for a second. We gave you a document kind of last minute. This came out of our meeting on Monday. And this was the reopening of the town hall and town offices plan that we obtained from the fire chief. And so we've been having conversation about what will it take to reopen our school offices, what are the proper procedures and protocols that we want to put in place. And it seemed like starting with a plan that was enacted down the road made some sense. So we took the plan and we modified the town plan to be a school plan. We made adjustments to it around elements that we thought were important for our schools. And I have it here for the board to hopefully act on tonight, because one of the things is that we're looking to begin opening after the July 4th holiday. And we're also looking to have a requirement for masks in our buildings by our staff. We've had a lot of staff in and out of the building, but we have not had everybody at once. So this would be something new for us to reopen and have everybody back. And the way it was explained to us by Chief Freitzel, who's also the emergency management director, is that the regulating authority has to make the requirement for masks to be worn. So if the board, which is the regulating authority, decides that masks are required inside our schools, we can then expect that to be worn by staff and worn by visitors into the building. So I just wanted to bring that forward. It's really, it's similar to what we've been doing. It just is a more comprehensive layout of it all with the requirement for masks. We have not required masks to be worn in the SAU office, for example. So I can come in and be in my office space, but I've also been in there. I think Michelle and I have been in together. Devin and Corey may be in at the same time, but there are very few people in. If we get to the point that all of us are in the office, we would expect masks to be worn in common areas like the copy room. If we're traveling through lobbies and hallways and so forth, that we think the mask would be important, mainly because of the threat of the airborne droplets being the highest threat that we see and perceive at this time.
And one of the things the chief said is it'd be nice if we could be uniform with the town, as long as with the SAU, so that if people were to question, why are you doing one way at the school and why are we doing something else in the town? So just to be uniform and going that way. And as you said, as long as if you post and we approve wearing a mask and you post that, then we can ask anyone to put a mask on. If they don't want to, then we won't have to let them in.
Are employees going to be required to wear them as well, like the office staff at each office? Have to wear all the time, or how does that work for them?
So in this plan, it talks about if somebody's in a private office. Yeah. So I would be expected to put the mask on as I come into the building. When I get to my office, I would have the option to remove the mask. We would work on protocols. So Michelle comes to see me. She will have to wear the mask to come down the office. She would knock on my door. I would don the mask for the dialogue or conversation that we're going to have. It's all about the reduction of the airborne droplets. So, we're going to have to work on our own protocols as we work our way through. Long answer is yes, except for when somebody's in a private area or, I guess the other thing is Michelle and I have been, so we have our weekly meeting to plan board agendas. And traditionally we sit at the table in my office. Well, we've now been going across the hall into the teacher workspace where there's a big conference table. She's at one end, I'm at the other. We're double social distance rules, and that's how we've been meeting. So, we've revised our protocol, but now I think because we're over there, we probably ought to put the mask on. And I think that just anticipating the fall, whatever our return looks like. I think having a receptionist with a mask, having parents wait in the secure vestibules and receive paperwork through the slot when we can, not because we're not a friendly, open school that welcomes people in, because we're in the middle of a pandemic still, and we're going to have to change our procedures. And I think people get that, but.
Well,
My work is requiring masks at all of our offices as well.
if they need paperwork, will they have to sign up for an appointment to receive the paperwork? You can't just drive by there and say, can I have? Because I think that's how they're doing it at town hall.
Yeah.
Is this like phase 2 or something?
This is sort of the phase 2 piece. So it depends on what the paperwork is. If it's a piece of paper that we can slip through the slot, we'll do that.
Yeah.
If it's a piece of paper that we can carry out to the person, that may be better than, traditionally we would say, oh, you're here to get that form, come on in. And we would buzz them in, right? It's a parent we know, we buzz them in. Those days are probably over. And currently you come in the main office, I'm thinking of the high school, LMS, GMS has a window, so it's a little bit different, but the other buildings are open. We've talked about, do we need plexiglass? Do we need some sort of a shield there to just help with the conversation? So we're engaged in all that dialogue and are trying to figure that out.
I did have a question about one part of it. It says that, I'm not sure if it's all employees or visitors. I think it's employees prior to or when entering work and leaving at the end of their shifts. Employees must fill out the form. And so I just wanted to clarify it's both.
We've been asking employees to take temperatures when they arrive and when they depart. So if we have a custodian who comes into us, we want to make sure they're not running a fever when they arrive. But then they work 8 hours with us, and it's possible they develop a temperature over the course of the shift. And so we're asking them to also do the sheet at the end of the shift, so that, there are plenty of examples where people become ill at work, and we think it's important to help track that.
Can I ask, I'm going to put this out on TV or whatever. When I got there, I didn't know how to use that thermometer. Do you put it on your wrist? Do you
Put it on
put
your
it
forehead.
across your wrist?
You
What?
put it right to your forehead.
You put it, it doesn't swoop around like back in the olden days?
It's no touch.
Because I had one yesterday and they got my wrist. So it's just, all right, then I did it right. Phew. I'm old school, sorry.
Yeah, you are.
So I just have a comment because when I went there and Liz, I figured out the thermometer, but I neglected to read all the instructions about like sanitizing it before and after. So but what I found was all the filled out forms were face up for anybody to see. And so that concerned me. Maybe there should be an envelope or something that they're dropped in or a box or something.
Someone drop box.
Do we need to have a paper form? Can we put a poster with a QR code that people can scan with their phones and fill out a Google form instead?
Love it.
We have, in my school, we have a paper form. And now that I'm thinking about it, they were face up too. Wow.
Well, that's private information.
So we did have some people who were concerned about entering it in on a Google form. So the QR codes, we have the Google form, but there are some people who don't want to enter it electronically. So we have the paper form available too.
Okay. Do you have both? Is there an option for both?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's right on our, if you go to our website, there's a drop down under the staff menu where the form is. So it can be filled out there.
But I love the idea of a QR code. That's super easy. And it'll help us try to track this stuff better, perhaps, because then it's just exportable. If somehow we need to find it. Otherwise, you're going to have thousands of pieces of paper.
Wow. That was exciting.
Yeah.
Hey,
Any other questions?
do you need a vote, Mike?
Yeah, for the mask. I mean, opening of the offices is one thing, but we need to, as a board, vote. Or I'll make the motion that in reopening the school offices, and I guess all of the school area, that masks will be required to be worn.
All the time or in private areas or?
By visitor.
I'm wondering, Brian, if you just move to approve the reopening school offices and SAU operation plan,
Sure.
because that gets into the nuances of you can take it off in your private office, blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, and I'll change my motion. Make a motion to approve the reopening school offices and SAU operations during COVID-19 pandemic.
I'll second it for discussion.
For discussion.
Okay,
I just have one question, just to
Yeah.
clarify. Mike, this does not go into the school year, right? If it's determined teachers don't have to wear one while teaching a class, if we're open.
No, this is just right now.
that's right. This is just for getting our office staff and our SAU staff back. We'll-
Not so, I just want to make sure.
My target is after July 4th, but we may do a phase into that. We have to kind of see, and we do have some personnel who are still worried. I want to be honest with the board. Some people are saying, I'm not sure that I'm ready for that yet. So we're going to take those on a case-by-case basis. And, we work with our employees to figure out what barriers there are. So we'll keep doing that.
So Brian made the motion, Rob second. Is there any other conversation?
Do we want to put an end date on it? I had another question, actually. In there, does it actually say employees are to clean the bathroom after they're done? I think it does. Really?
Let me look. Where is that one? Do you remember?
I don't know. I just made a note. I can do a search for it. Hold on.
It says the second page. Under number 4B.
So I don't read that to mean that you're doing a thorough sanitation of the restroom after you've
Pick up after
left it.
yourself.
I think it's more
Clean it up?
it's a pick up after yourself,
Okay.
So if you make a big mess in it, you need to pick it up.
All right. That's more picking up versus, well, I guess clean up. I don't know. I read it as cleaning. Okay.
What's good about the high school is that there's no door you have to push to get out.
Yeah.
Which is extra sanitary.
I use my butt, push the doors,
I'm an elbow person.
get germs on your elbows.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna put my elbow on my face.
Well, you never know. Any other conversation?
Oh, I did have one other question. So, Mike, does this mean all 3 schools are opening up to all summer staff? Or is this just to open up in the summer for CHS?
No, this is our schools. So
all of them. Okay.
Our extended school year program for some students is opening at GMS after July 4th. And so that's another piece that there will be students and staff limited. It's not going to be the full summer program. The Adventure Lore program will be for some high school students. So these things are starting to ramp up and starting to operate under the rules. So that's why getting our offices up and going and people back is also important. And I think the more we practice and test some of the procedures, it will help us to be ready for having students and parents arrive back.
Are you saying students are going back to Campbell for the program, Adventure Lore?
Yep.
Nice. I mean, oh, that's great.
Because what do you have your EC set at, 50?
Yeah.
Great.
Remember, we're sweltering here, Miss Sweater. I'm just saying.
They said I turned it up to 75 because I'm so cold. Sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, boy. So are there going to be any, okay, so are all staff that work over the summer coming back to the buildings? Or are there going to be anybody working, is there going to be anybody working from home at that point?
So we're going to do it case by case, Tara. So there could be some staff. Our goal is to get as many people back as possible. But there could be some staff who say, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not comfortable. And we'll work with them on that. And it could be splits still in terms of the number of days. But yes, it's to return back to normal.
Okay, very good.
As much the new normal, whatever we want to call it. So.
Any other conversation, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Tara,
Aye.
Liz,
Hi.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye.
All right, 4-hour mark. I'm getting sleepy, people.
Well,
I know. Could we maybe take a 5-minute break?
let's see why not.
Or I'll just go off for a minute.
No, we can pause for 5 minutes and then reconvene.
All right. So 5-minute TV timeout. We got it.
Good evening and welcome back. I apologize for our 5-minute break being extended a little bit, but we had a little bit of technical difficulties we have to iron out. So our first part of new business is policies, annual reapproval. First one is DFA investments, which is just a yearly or annually. So this gives, if I'm not mistaken, the BA power. Is that correct?
It actually gives the school district treasurer the ability to do their job as treasurer.
The auditors require us to, and the law requires us, the board, to approve it annually.
Right.
Make a motion to approve policy, is it policy?
Yeah. DFA.
DFA, the investment policy.
I'll second the motion. So, is there any conversation? Hearing none. Tina made the motion. Brian second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Abstain. Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. So now we have a group of district policies. Again, we're just doing the beginning here as far as reapproving policies. The first one is AA.
So the actually they're separated into two groups here. So we took policy manual section A, which is all about basically the setup of the district, policy manual A, and Michelle reviewed them against the model policies being recommended by the School Board Association. And you can see that there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 policies that by and large, our policies that are in place continue to mimic and follow what is recommended for us. So we're bringing those forward just for reapproval process. The only switch is that we have swapped out the template, the way we go about doing the approval. So the header on those is a little bit different. While reviewing those, there were 3 policies that come further down labeled review that really required a rewrite. There was quite a mismatch between what we had on file as our policy and what the law now requires, and therefore the model policy requires. So I want to keep these in 2 separate buckets if we can. So the first bucket are just reapprovals because we are aligned with the recommended model policies by the association. And I don't know if you want to go through them individually or take them as a group.
I was gonna make a motion to group. I mean, if you guys want to do them individually, hopefully everyone had an opportunity to look at them. You want to do them individually, or you want to do them as a group?
I did. I just have a couple questions, so I can do it after there's a motion or now if you want.
Okay, ask.
The educational philosophy one, there it mentions that we should review and revise the mission statement yearly. Michelle, you had mentioned that there was a major process the last time to actually create the mission statement. So I'm wondering if that one should have, maybe it's a 3-year cycle where we review and revise the mission. So every board member at least once in their term will have an opportunity to review or revise the mission should we want to do that.
So just a quick explanation and a history on it. In 1997, when when CHS was the concept of building CHS was coming to light because we needed a high school here, the committee that met on the high school developed a mission statement to mirror the ed specifications for rigorous curriculum and instruction, and to include social, emotional, community, student, all that stuff. In 2006, we formed another committee to change the mission statement because people felt that it should be changed. It was a huge, huge undertaking. The district hired a consultant at the time. And if you look, I can provide you with the past mission statement from earlier on. If you look at the two mission statements, you'll see that they're essentially exactly alike. And that the second mission statement only cut out a whole bunch of words.
You are the only participant in this conference.
Condensed it a little bit.
Press any
So
key to
mission
continue this
the
conference.
mission and vision never actually changed.
But I'm fine with just bringing it to the board, review it, discuss it, approve it. I don't think
Well, you can.
I don't
yeah,
think it's convening a committee and, we don't have to hack it apart.
No, and that's,
Because it shouldn't change that greatly from board to board.
and that's the way I'm reading this policy, is just yearly we review it. If we think this changes have to take place, then we decide that point.
Almost like a reaffirmation of
Yeah.
the
Right.
Information.
Yeah.
And that can be part of maybe that's part of our discussion on our goals. When we visit our goals on an annual basis, we refer to the mission statement to see if it aligns with our goals. And at that time, maybe
Yeah. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Mary not working on, I know she was a little while back, working on mission statements as far as to get them all.
You are the only
schools.
participant in this conference.
Um,
Press any key to continue this conference. The conference will now continue. While in a conference, to hear the caller count, press star 2.
good job, Brian.
To control on-hold beeps,
Yeah, let's go
press
find out.
star 3. For this help message, press star 4. To access listen-only modes, press star 5. To mute or unmute your phone,
Star 5.
press star 6. To set, all participants are muted and may not unmute themselves.
all right. I think we're back to normal. The Starship Enterprise is reprogrammed. I'm sorry. I'm thinking, so a couple of things. So Mary's doing the work with the,
Portrait of a learner.
thank you.
Practices too.
Exactly. And the other piece is that this could become part of what we do as our annual organizational meeting. So, we elect a chair, we elect a vice chair, we go through all that, and we revisit our mission. We just make that an annual thing that we affirm that the mission is what we're going to follow through for the next year. So maybe that's the right time to just embed that into that process.
I think so. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
And notice that the mission is proudly at the top of the agenda. So every meeting, when the board gets the agenda, the mission is laid out there with the 2007 date on it. So
And the minutes. It's also on the minutes.
Correct. Tara, you said you had another question on another one?
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to make sure I was unmuted. The student involvement, I think it looks great. I just was curious, is there actually student representation on the FERC committee?
is there? I don't know the answer.
Not while I can remember, no.
Okay. Maybe there should be.
Yes.
All right.
Let me, I can take that forward to Mary.
Any other questions in regards to the policies itself?
No, none on the top group.
Anyone else have anything? Hearing none. I want to make a motion to reapprove policy AA, policy ABA, policy ABAA, policy ABB, policy ABC, policy ACE, policy AD, and policy AE.
I'll second.
Is that Tina?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, Brian made a motion, Tina second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob,
Aye.
and Brian's an aye. 500.
Just for clarity, is that a first read? Does it come back, Michelle, or is it?
No, that's for reapproval,
It's just
just a
reapproval.
total reapproval.
Okay, so we're good on those.
Yeah, we're
Perfect.
done.
So now we'll spend a little bit more time just on,
8 down, 400,000 more to go.
well, exactly. And our goal is this year to start bringing these forward in groups like this. So we're doing the review.
Yep.
So now we have ACR, which is our non-discrimination policy. If you take a look at what we have on the books and compare it to this draft policy, a couple of things to point out. And Michelle, I'm going to ask you to just chime in at the end. But
Sure.
basically, we are now required to have an anti-discrimination plan. This is a new requirement for school districts. And so this was something that was passed by the legislature. It's not in response to anything going on. It's just an expectation that has been passed along to us. And if you look at the policy that we currently have, it's really pretty thin and it doesn't say an awful lot. This policy is far more substantial and far more specific about what we need to do. So it's really, I think it's important that we get this policy on the books. But I want to pause there. Michelle, is there something else you wanted to add about it?
Just that in the procedure part, ACR, it's an annual notification of who the human rights officer is for the district, who the Title IX officer is, and who the 504 coordinator is. The policy is also now directing us to name those in the policy and to include the agencies that people can report discrimination to. This was, there's also going to be, Holly and I are going to be working on some policies over the next couple of weeks because the Title IX law has changed.
Where is?
And it's affecting, we have to have an actual Title IX policy aside from the sexual harassment policies.
If you click down below.
So this is all going to tie in together, but for these policies tonight for AC and ACR, this was all geared by the legislature. And so we're just basically following the law.
Is Devin all of those positions for us?
No,
Who are they?
Dr. Jetty would be the human rights officer.
Okay.
The director of HR would be Title IX, and Devin would be 504.
Okay.
And this does not have to be approved tonight. You can move it to a first reading, or you can suggest revisions or whatever you'd like to do. I did
It's
have
just not
policy
loading.
notes on this
It'll
too,
load
to
if you
give
pause.
the background to why it was changed.
It's wicked slow. There it is. Yep.
So I looked at it earlier. It's like,
I'll make the motion to approve policy ACR non-discrimination for a first reading.
I second.
so Tina, you made the motion?
Yeah.
I seconded.
Liz second. Is there any discussion at this time? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving this policy?
You know, I said it as a first reading, but I'm comfortable with it as just approving it as amended.
I think we'd have to approve it as a first read first.
I think it has to go because it's a total rewrite, and we have to give the community a chance to chime in.
Okay, then never mind.
Fair enough. I still second.
So no further discussion. All those in favor of approving for first read policy AC and ACR, signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain. Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. So now we'll move on to policy ADB, drug-free workplace and drug-free schools.
So this policy also has been expanded and made more specific to comply with the law and to make sure that people understand how it applies to both students and employees. And so Yeah, I guess that's what I'll say. Michelle, do you want to just comment any further on the changes to it? It's just.
Yeah, absolutely. The federal law included a provision explained in the policy notes about drug-free awareness and to clarify the obligations of the superintendent's office under the New Hampshire drug-free school zone law. So they also suggested that we have something in it about a syringe service program, but we don't have the capacity for something like that. So that was optional. I did not include that in the policy. Basically, this encompasses, the first one we had was just for employees. This encompasses everybody. Because it's a federal law. You cannot smoke or do drugs or anything like that on school grounds or inside the buildings. So.
Or off school grounds during a school activity.
True. But for this particular policy, it's definitely a drug-free school policy. Excuse me, and a drug-free workplace policy. So they kind of combine both of them.
So I just got a quick question for you, Michelle. So when you enter the school area and it's a drug-free zone, there's a distance before the high school and after the high school that is stiffer penalties for drugs?
I believe, now I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think it's 1,000 feet.
You're correct.
So would it also hold true as far as if we have this policy like smoking? So let's say a student leaves or a teacher leaves and they're walking off the grounds, but they're still within 1,000 feet. Would they be breaking this policy?
I think this one is basically for drugs, and we have another one for smoking that's coming next.
The drug-free school zone that you're referencing is enhanced penalties if somebody is, I think it's dealing.
Okay.
I don't know that it's possession. I could be wrong on that though, but it's enhanced penalties if you're convicted in court.
Does anyone have any questions at this time?
I make a motion to approve the drug-free workplace and drug-free schools policy
The first read.
for first read.
A second.
Tyra made the motion. Tina second. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Fine.
Opposed? Abstained. Tina?
Aye.
Tyra?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian is an aye. It's 5-0-0. Our next policy is ADC.
Yep, and this is regarding the use and possession of tobacco products. It's updated now to include e-cigarettes, e-liquids, in and on school facilities and grounds. So this is just sort of catching up with the many ways that tobacco products can be used today. So that's a major section of it. And Michelle, anything else to add on it?
Just that it was basically been revised to respond to the 2019 change in the law, the New Hampshire laws, and it goes into a little bit more of a description or definition, I should say, of what e-liquids, the liquid vaping stuff is and all that stuff. That's all classified as smoking products. Now, as far as Brian's question about how many feet, if there's I don't know the answer to that. I can find out.
Right. But I think Mike's probably right. It's more or less if you go to court and found guilty, they're just stiffer penalties.
I make a motion to approve for first reading, the prohibition of the use and possession of tobacco products in or on school facilities and grounds.
It's policy
Second.
ADC. So
ADC.
Tara made a motion. Liz, you second?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Liz?
Aye.
Rob?
Aye.
And Brian's an aye. 500. So as a reminder, the manifest will be available tomorrow at CHS. And I'll try to get there early and I'll drop off your LSS contract booklets.
Oh. Thank you.
And they'll be right there near the manifest.
Pepto-Bismol pink. He already shared it.
What's
You
that?
missed that. That's all you missed.
It's hot pink, Pepto-Bismol pink.
Oh, you didn't see it?
It's gonna look better with the light now. You watch.
Whoa.
It's a Canada mint.
Love it.
That's all I picked up from before the meeting.
All right, so that brings us to public input.
Oh, sorry. Forgot. Hold on.
So we're gonna be going back to non-public.
I just have something for Michelle.
And then we have to
while
take
you're
the
looking,
slows
Tina.
coming out.
Yeah, Michelle, on the upcoming
No, we're not
meetings,
gonna come out.
so
Not gonna go back to public.
7:24 is really 7:29, but that's a task force meeting. Can you just like put that in parentheses? Because that's really not for all of us four. It's really just for Brian, right? Because that's the overall task force. And then also 8.5, maybe we just put that as optional.
Yeah, I'll
That's what
put
I said.
tentative
Eight times
next to that.
Okay.
If you want to take
We're
it off,
talking
you
before
probably
we
can,
go
but
down.
The
it's up to you.
7:15.
As far, I
This is a
don't
regular
know,
school
I'm
board meeting.
confused
Yep.
about the 7:29 meeting. I thought that was for a board
7:29?
emergency meeting.
Is that for task force?
No, so 7:29 was for the board. We were hoping to be able to act on one agenda item, which was the emergency. Because if we're going to get info out to our parents in August, we need to have the board acting on what reopening looks like. So
Right.
basically, we're looking at the week of the 6th, the 13th, and the 20th to write and finalize the report,
Wait.
the Litchfield report.
7:29 vote on
And then the
task force.
29th would be a one agenda item just for the board to review that
So
and,
it is for
and-
everybody.
and to
Okay.
act.
It is for everybody.
And
Yeah,
honestly,
okay.
if we can't get our work done, I mean, you heard what I just said, 3 weeks to get a comprehensive plan to reopen schools. It may have to wait till the 5th, but the 5th would be a regular meeting right now. I'd like to think that we have it ready by the 29th.
So the 19th is not meeting for August.
August 19th, I don't think we were going to meet then.
No, that's our regular meeting.
No, that's
19th?
our regular meeting.
19th was regular, the 5th
Oh,
was the one that was in case we need
The
it.
5th was
in
added,
case we need it, right? That's if we need it. Got it.
so I'll make that one tentative.
Okay.
The 29th will be the special meeting. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And then the next one will be the 19th.
Awesome.
The next one's the 19th.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
So, any public input, Tina?
What? Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
No.
I said, is there any public input?
No.
All right. So at this point, we're going to be going back into non-public, and just to let the public know that once we are done in non-public, we will not be coming back into public.
Other than to adjourn.
I like
Right.
4 o'clock meetings. We're done at 8:30 instead of 10:30.